to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Questions and announcements from the board? Questions and announcements from the audience? Mark?
Just have a quick announcement for board members and folks at home. Just wanted to bring to the board's attention a secretary at Matthew Thornton School during the summer, Paula Archambault. Through her efforts, we received a grand total of approximately $16,000 for the Scott Forsman pilot materials that we had purchased the past year. Those materials are being replaced with the new additions that are now arriving in the district. So we certainly appreciate Paula's efforts for saving us some money and getting some money back from books that we used during the past year. So.
Excellent. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Mark.
Any other announcements from the audience?
You know what, I have some that I was going to actually make
Okay,
during liaison, but I'll do it now,
sounds good.
in case anybody sneaks out early. Summer, after all. The notice on the high school sign, there'll be a blood drive on the 30th, next Monday. And that's from, usually those are from 11 to 7, 2 to 7. Do you know who that's sponsored by, Brian? The Rotary Club? Okay, the Rotary Club's sponsoring that. I happened to sneak into, I happened to attend the student briefing about China, and the band is looking for opportunities to do fundraising, and I personally took advantage of that. And what you do is, if you go to lancermusic.org, you can contact the Lancer Band and make arrangements with them for the students to do a work day at your home or business. And I've used them in the past to rake leaves, and this time I used them to remove some plaster and dead animals. They really like the gross stuff, and I just wanted to say that the students are extremely polite, hard workers, and they all had a good time and wanted to come back. So we set up 2 sets of work teams, one in the morning for 4 hours, one in the afternoon for 4 hours, and we're doing that for the next 3 weekends. And we're paying them, and those funds will be used to help them get to China. So if there's other people in the community that are interested in that, please contact the Friends of Music, and that website was lancermusic.org to connect with them. I think you'll be pleasantly pleased with how well they work. So thank you, Ron.
Anything else? Okay. First order of business is the assessment database demonstration by Tom and Mark.
First off, while Tom is booting up and so forth, I'd just like to say during the past year, Tom has really worked diligently in getting our assessment data into one database. So our DIBELs, our Iowas, kneecaps, and other assessments are all in one place, not only to be used for administrators but teachers, so they are able to access it right from their computers in their rooms as a point of access. This allows them to tailor instruction to individual students, both at the 30th percentile or below, as well as those that are advanced students. So by having this available to our teachers and administrators, this really gives us a whole new world of opportunities, and I'm going to let Tom go into the details.
When Mark first approached me about this project, it was obvious that our district really spends a lot of time and effort in assessing our students' performance with a variety of different tests. From Iowa, kneecap, the DIBELs being an ongoing examination process 3 to 4 times a year, and now with the Scott Forsman that may be 6 to 7 times a year. it really creates a wealth of data. And the question is, how are we going to house this, and how are we going to use it to benefit the students? And it seemed from the very beginning, two things we wanted to do was, number one, make it easy to use. Number two, incorporate as much of that information in one place as we could, so that teachers and administrators could easily go to a location and see all the data they need to make important decisions. You know, as Mark said before, those decisions are really pretty critical, having to do with how to form a classroom, how to combine different students for the optimum classroom, how to identify students who are struggling in certain areas, and not just struggling in math, but maybe what aspects of math. You know, what do they need in as fine detail as possible. Also, you want to see who's achieving on a higher level. You want to access all that information easily. We decided to proceed by putting everything in a database and making it accessible via the web. So this is really not so much a website as a web-based application. The web-based application is split into two halves, essentially. One is for teachers that gives them complete information in their classroom. One is for administrators that gives them a much broader range of tools to use. Right now, I'm logged in as a teacher. And this is what our intranet site looks like. This is a website only accessible from within our network. It has certain other tools that we can go into at a different time. But for now, what we're interested in right now, this is the Assess Admins section, Assess Teachers. Right now, I'm logged in as a teacher, and I click this site. And this is my class. These are all the students. I don't have to search for them. They're all right here. The total information for any one student is accessible just by clicking on that student's name. I want to proceed very cautiously. This is private data. I'll go with my daughter who's in this classroom so you can see exactly what a teacher would see. It's my daughter right here. And as you can see, my daughter had entered the district and began her DIBELS testing in the 2nd grade. These are her 3 DIBELS results. 3rd grade, these are also her 3 results. She's had 1 kneecap exam. And I don't want to go into great detail on every possible field here. I just want to give you a broad overview. So these are the specific areas for kneecap exams, and it also compares district and state averages. Below are 2 years of Iowa exams that she's had, and what you see presented at first are just the general results for the Iowa exams. If I click here for the details, it will give me all the details of every section of the Iowas that she's taken. There are also the Scott Forsman Reading Unit assessment exams that will be manually entered by each teacher. And this was a tricky thing to create because teachers didn't want to spend their whole day entering information on exams. So what we did was we made it as user-friendly as possible for that teacher. We wanted to get it to be 5 minutes to enter an exam for an entire classroom. They can click on this link. What they can do, you can see these are the 2 exams my daughter has taken. But to enter information, all they need to do, they'll have the student up. They pick the unit they're interested in. And you can see it's just generic information here. Unit 3. It will go into the software. It'll find the topics for each of the units, the number of questions involved. All they need to do is enter the totals that were achieved in each section and enter the score. The software will do the rest. It really is going to compile a large amount of information for that teacher on this exam. So really, it's under 5 minutes for them to enter this information. We're back to the main section of the website. Now, this teacher only can see her classroom. It'll detect who that teacher is and give the information only that she needs. If she tries to enter the administrative site, she'll be prompted for a password. If an administrative password isn't put in, it will fail.
Keyboard knows.
Unless you know the name of her dog.
I'm going to log off now and log in as a user with elevated permissions. And I'd also point out that this was not done at great cost. You know, we didn't employ any consultants. And in fact, a lot of this code was researched and written at home, so it didn't involve an extraordinary amount of my time during the day here, other than to roll it out. But to create the code was fairly cost-effective for the district.
So Tom, this is a program that you wrote
Yes.
completely? When we go with a student management system, will you be able to tie it in, or we
It will
expect
have
to
to.
tie? Okay.
Yeah, that's where all the data from this comes from. It compiles all the past assessments with current demographic data, what school a child is in, what grade, things like that. So it'll have to work hand in hand with a student information system, which shouldn't be a problem as long as that student information system is an ANSI compliant database that is free to exchange information. Okay, as I log in, you'll see that as it's coming up, there's a greater feature set for the administrators. I will explain what some of these features do. I really can't run them and show you the results because of the privileged information that it would reveal. Okay, we're back to the same intranet. And this time we will go to the assessment. The administrative staff can access any student who's had any assessment data taken by name or student ID. You can search, if you just know the last, just by a few letters of last name, first name, or student ID. It'll pull up those students that begin with that letter, that they happen to be my children. Again, I can click on my son and I see all his assessment information, and this will grow over time as he takes more kneecaps, more Iowa data. It'll be easier to see trends for him, and this page will, by the time he's a senior, be pretty extensive. These three tools below are pretty powerful tools for administrators. I cannot run them, but what they will do is you can choose one section of any exam and choose a achievement level you want to search for, and it'll spit back all the students who are above or below that level depending on what you select. So this is an ideal tool for them to zero in on students who are not achieving as well as we would like in certain areas. Also to see who's excelling, up to their capacities or beyond. And that is for all of the three major types of assessment exams they take. Like I said, I really can't run these for you, but this would spit back an accurate list of who is achieving in what section of any test. In addition, the middle school can also filter that list by storm to see exactly for the administrators who, they can see the data that they need. They don't need to be bothered with information that isn't exactly what they want. Down below, there's aggregate information. For administrators, you can run this and it will show you for this school year NECAP aggregate information by district, by school, by grade. It'll show the state averages by grade and averages by school and by grade to see how different grades compare, how different schools compare, and over time to see how they're progressing. Basically, it's the same thing for Iowa and Dibbles. You run it, and it will give you aggregate data according to the same criteria, by district, by school, by grade, and by school. And that's about it for now. We are going to create methods for people to track data over time as is allowed. But right now, at least, this gives all the teachers the ability to really zero in on their class very easily, get the information they need to teach to each student, to teach to their strengths and to elevate their weaknesses and really work in strengthening their weak areas. And it allows administrators to see what's going on in their school and see what's working, what's not working, and really accurately view the trends over time. The last feature that I would like to show you is the curriculum benchmarks. We had the curriculum benchmarks in a state that made them somewhat difficult to access for the teachers. We do have it printed out, but in a way that where you have to really go from section to section to see exactly what you are supposed to teach as a third grade teacher. We wanted to make this easy for the teachers to see what it is exactly they're supposed to be teaching. And we came up with a way for them to search pretty easily. They click on the benchmarks. And as you can see, we have grade, subject, and topic. That's how our benchmarks are delineated. Click on any grade. It gives you the subjects for kindergarten. Click on any subject. It gives you the benchmarks. For communications, fine motor skills. Very easily you can switch to fourth grade. And these are the subject areas fourth graders are required to learn. Science. All the benchmarks will show up. And so it makes it easy for a fifth grade teacher to see exactly what areas they need to cover for that grade. And really this and the other section of assessments is all about getting at the information at an easy, usable way. Because if the information is there, but it's not easy for people to use and to see and get at, they may be discouraged from really using all the tools and information at their disposal to make the most they can for the teaching experience. And that's about it.
Questions from the board? Dan?
Tom, are we going to open this up if an individual knows their student ID, which obviously they must? Would they have access to that individual? So could I access this from home and track my child's progress?
Not at the present time. It's possible.
Obviously, I wouldn't want any of the other data, but you could limit it to this some access based on a password per student or student ID.
Yeah, I think security would be a big concern for us with
Sure.
that, and I will say that that's possible. It's not difficult to set up, but to set up in a completely secure way that doesn't take any risks whatsoever with this data is a little more challenging.
Well, that
Right
lead-
now,
Oh, go ahead.
right now, a parent could contact an administrator at their school, and they could easily print this out for
Sure.
the parent.
That leads into my second question. You said it's depending upon the availability of your security clearance, you're limited to what you can see, an individual teacher, you, an administrator.
Correct.
Who is going to set those security levels?
Well, I discussed with the administrative staff at the district office who should have what levels of permissions. Of course, teachers had teacher permission.
Sure.
That's it. And I believe principals, assistant principals, and a few other key figures have access to that administrative site. It's very limited right now.
Okay.
We figured it would be easier to roll it out in a very limited way and then cautiously expand it rather than give it out to lots of people and then cut it back.
Now, I heard Ron's question relative to the student management system, if and when we put the new system in. But relative to Dibbles and Iowa assessments, can those be downloaded direct from the data feeds that we receive from those institutions? So somebody at the district office or somewhere doesn't have to put in the totality of the students participating in those exams?
I believe Dibbles has to be entered by hand.
Now, but I'm saying, I know somebody at the district office does that, I believe.
It does have to be entered and onto their database. And then what Tom does, he then downloads it into the district database at this point.
From
But there is some-
Dibbles database?
Yeah, from the
Oh.
Dibbles database.
So we're not manually entering that information?
We are manually entering it at
I'm
the
confused.
school level. So,
In this software, nothing's being manually entered. We get aggregate data from the organizations, and we put
Yeah.
it in the database. But to get the Dibbles information from the district to the Dibbles organization, that is manually entered.
yeah.
And it's our hope also.
It's just a question for
Yeah.
Right. It's our hope.
the NEHAPs too.
Kneecaps too. yeah.
Kneecap, I think, is automatically created,
Yes, it is, and then you
Okay.
download it.
and I download
Okay.
the raw data and put it in our database.
Thank you. Good job.
Other questions? Tom, you spoke about the reading program. Don't we have the same type of assessment in math?
What we're doing in the math area, Ron, and we'll be bringing that to you. We've had the primary math teachers. We brought it up at C3. They've been working on developing common math assessments based off of our benchmarks, and those will be, at least the primary grades will be probably ready to go in the first trimester. So those are just getting underway. But those were developed by teachers based off the program and our benchmarks.
And they'll be entered into here, so it'll be. going once.
Yes, that will happen.
The only other thing, Tom, on this here, is there a time limit with this program goes dead that you have to put in your password after 3 minutes or 5 minutes? Or should there be something like that?
That would be with your initial Windows login. So if you have a password-protected screen, so for example, if you step away from your
That's what I'm
desk,
looking at, that a teacher is called away and there's this information up there.
They should be configured with a password-protected screensaver, and I think the district technology committee should examine what an appropriate time would be for that. 3 minutes away, the screensaver comes up. 5 minutes away. That's something for that organization to explore.
Can just someone take an action so we have that in place? If we're gonna let the teachers do it, they may be called for something in that information you just don't want up on the screen. Okay. And I don't have any other questions. I think that's, and can we put a counter on the thing, how many times it gets hit? by the teachers and the administrators?
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to see it and track it over a period of time to see how that goes. If the information's being used. I like this with the benchmarks up there that you can call it, that it's easy to get to. Nice job. I'll bring the database together. Okay,
Okay, thank you.
thank you very much.
Thank you, and thank you, Mark. And this was a lot of work getting this done. Greatly appreciate it. Nice job, Tom.
Thank you.
Okay, meetings. We have a meeting on August 14th, 7 o'clock in this room. We also have a building tour on August 27th. And Nate, can you please provide us where that tour is going to start and send it on to the Budget Committee
Yep.
and the Town Council if they'd like to visit with us on that? And the same thing on August 29th. We also have a meeting on August 27th at 7 o'clock in this room. May I please have a motion on the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
comments? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. Committee reports. Well, it's going to be school board liaison reports. Dan, we'll start down at your end.
Don't believe I've been anywhere, but let me check. Since the last meeting, no.
I'll do the student council report. I happened to run into Ally McKinney, who did the backpacks for the Fresh Air kids about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And the student council put together backpacks with baseball bats and coloring books and other things that these children from New York City, when they got off the bus at the Burger King, they were presented these backpacks and were all extremely, extremely excited with it. And this was put together by the student council, and Ally was the person that really spearheaded the mission. And I just thought it was a very kind thing for them to do. The kids were very excited, and those that had to wait for their 2-week parents to come and get them while they were visiting New Hampshire, and they were able to use the stuff that was in the backpacks, and it was just a very kind thing for our students to do. The also ran into London Area High School swim team this weekend at Getty Lukoil, and they were doing a car wash, and it was free. They never did go for the clothes, so I tried to explain to them how to do that. But they washed vehicles, and they were there from 8 o'clock in the morning till 4 o'clock in the afternoon, 2 teams of 20 of the swimmers, and many of them had T-shirts on in regards to the loss of our own representative here on the board. The next event they have will be Old Home Day weekend, and I believe it's on Saturday, but it could be on Sunday. And they'll be having a car wash all day long, Old Home Day weekend. That's the swim team. And just to say to everyone, they were also polite to everyone that came. We had a preliminary, our first meeting to review resumes for the position of director for MIS, and if George wants to talk any more about that, he can.
George?
No, I actually got nothing else to say about the IT stuff until we maybe get a little further along in the process. The only meetings that have been going on was back in July, and that was the planning board, and there was really nothing that affects the district itself. I know Goffstown Trucking postponed or asked for continuance till, they weren't sure if it was gonna be August 1st or September 5th about the bus facility up on Hardy Road, so I don't know where that stands until the next agenda, so that's about it.
Okay, thank you. I attended a town council meeting, and the only thing that was really, that would affect us long-term, and it's going to come to the planning board, is there was a petition to rezone land on Perkins Road. and they were gonna use mixed use on that, and they were gonna put in affordable housing in there, businesses, and some 55 and older housing. So it was a petition to rezone that land there, because it's not currently allowed. So that's gonna be something that's coming to the planning board over the next few weeks. I went to the rec commission meeting, beginning of the month, and what the rec commission is trying to do is look forecast of the needs of the the town rec committees, or the organizations in town, to see if we can put a long-range plan together, or understand what the uses are gonna be over the next several years, to see what's happening on that. So that's the first step that we're proceeding on that. Okay, and that's all I have on that. Okay, any other reports, or seeing none? Okay, next item is Jason. You're up here on the adult education.
We celebrated 29 graduates from the spring semester class in our adult education program, and over 300 people attended the graduation ceremony. So it was our biggest one to date, and we were really proud of the kids. It was just a phenomenal day, and the culmination of a lot of hard work from the staff and the kids. 19 of those 29 plan to go to college this fall, so we're excited about that as well. 97% of all the night students pass their classes and earn credit in the program, and for the first time, 100% of all classes taken and finished reflect passing grades, so no one academically failed the class. Those that failed, again did so because of attendance. In our World Studies program, 17 out of 21 freshmen passed and earn a full credit in English and World History, so that's 81% of them, and 15 out of 21 of them are academically on track going into their sophomore year. Another 3 are within a credit of being on track, so 86% of them are benefiting from the support we're providing in this program. We have 3 students that are at least a semester behind, and those 3 are taking summer school classes for credit recovery. From an academic standpoint, students passing the World Studies class for semester 2 have seen an increase from 61% last spring to 81% this spring, and the overall credit accumulation and being on track entering sophomore years increased over the 3 years we've had the program, from 35% in 04-05 to 61% in 05-06 to 72% in 2006-2007. So we are seeing a climb with those kids. 24 students participate in the original Lift and World Studies programs when they commenced in the summer of 2004. And those kids are now seniors in the class of 2008. I tracked those kids right along, and 11 of them are on track to graduate with a 24-credit Londonderry High School diploma. So it's almost half of them. 5 are on track to graduate with our 20-credit Adult Ed diploma. 2 have earned their GEDs. 2 were outplaced over the last 3 years. 3 moved or transferred to another school, and 1 dropped out of school. So 20 of the 24, or 83% of this at-risk population, will attain high school completion through the Londonderry School District, and those were the original kids. And we can continue to see this trend now for subsequent senior classes of these original, of the kids that participate in Lift and World Studies. As far as GED goes, the number of people who are accessing the Londonderry Testing Center also continues to increase. Over 265 individuals from across New Hampshire have earned their GED at our site, which is still one of the only ones to operate year-round and schedule testers within a week of their request. So we're seeing a steady flow of applicants and people registering. We already have 68 people test this year, and will surpass the 2006 statistics of those testing and earning their certificates. Recruits are still coming in large numbers to test from the U.S. Army and National Guard. With summer school for the 3rd straight year, we've retained 100% of our staff, and that's provided great stability within our program. We're offering 10 classes this summer, and there are 64 students taking a combined 77 enrollment spots. 3 of the students will graduate and earn their high school diplomas at the end of this summer once they complete the program. When we originally looked at students that were potentially going to fail second semester, we sent out 239 letters to the families indicating that these kids could benefit from taking summer school courses with follow-up phone calls from guidance counselors. And we found that 1/3 of the students decided to take advantage of the program, which will conclude next Tuesday. It's been great so far, though. The classes are running well. The teachers are really involved. They're starting to take their kids on some field trips, and they're accessing the vans that we have, which has been very beneficial because it's really expanded our programming. Our civics economics class took a field trip to Stonyfield Yogurt. Of course, the Alvern Farm program commutes to and from the farm using one of the vans, so it's been great. With our LIFT program, 24 incoming freshmen are participating of the 47 that the middle school initially identified. This program's fostering organizational skills, reading and writing skills, class participation, positive behavior and attitude, and study skills. They have met the administration and the staff. They have navigated the building, found their lockers, looked at their schedules, and they're really taking ownership in the school that they're going to enter in the fall. They've used a low ropes course, and they're going to go on a team building hike up Mount Monadnock this Thursday. So most of them should earn the full high school credit and retroactive middle school credit so that they'll be promoted to the high school rather than advanced along. And we're happy about that. Finally, the agricultural production program has 9 students working on the farm. This summer, they've built chicken coops and goat pens, did some haying, and have taken care of Angora rabbits, goats, sheep, turkeys, cows. They're currently learning how to ride and work on the tractors, and these students will earn a full credit for their participation in the program and have the option of returning for additional courses at Alvern Career and Technical Center. In fact, 2 want to remain on in August and work under the farm manager just to keep going and learning more about farm management. So that was exciting. And overall, our at-risk programs are continuing to thrive. We're doing great things for kids. This past year alone, 50 students have graduated through our adult ed program in summer school, and up to this point, we've seen a total of 203 students earn high school diplomas because of the alternative ed programs the school districts put in place over the past 5 years, with hundreds more obviously benefiting from taking classes to get back on track towards graduation. In the past 4 years, the high school has seen a steady decline in our dropout rate from 2.7% in 03-04 to 2.2% in 04-05 to 1.7% last year to 1% this year was just reported by Mike Dolphin, our guidance director. So it's just phenomenal that less than 20 kids, we're losing less than 20 kids over those 4 years. And it's among the lowest dropout rates in New Hampshire. So programs are doing well. I'm very proud of what's been accomplished. It's been a terrific year.
Questions from the board? Dan, why don't you start and we'll go just around.
Okay. Want me to have a couple or do? Okay. Jason, on page 1, the spring semester results for adult education. Where would you believe we may enter into a capacity issue? Or would we even have a capacity issue?
That's a good question. I don't foresee that now because we still have teachers wanting to, they've come up with their own electives, and because of much of the curriculum's elective base, we've talked about that, and we've taken a look at enrollment numbers and trends. We carry over those that don't graduate as night students. As you know, we've seen the shift where 3/4 of our program are strictly night students, and now we have about 1/4 populating that are day students accessing night courses.
So we're, in your estimation, we're nowhere near concern level yet for
No.
our enrollments?
No, in fact,
Because it continuously grows, so.
yes. And we have caps and in typically the English classes, some of the social studies classes fill because those are required courses towards graduation. And once we've met that cap, we've opted to run secondary courses.
Can I continue with the next one, Ron?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Please continue until you
Let's
finish.
flip to number 2.
Sure.
World Studies. How many students would you say coming out of the freshman year are at risk in the aggregate? Or how many did not complete, are not on track for 6 credits?
Of the incoming
Of the
freshmen,
total freshman population. Yeah.
I can run that report. I don't have those numbers, so
Okay.
I really don't feel comfortable commenting.
I know we
looking at
track that.
But,
If you could.
yeah, absolutely. And what I'd like to do is take a look at the students. Like I said, we meet with the middle school. If they come up with 50 names and we're getting 25,
Right.
If the other 25 are, I don't want to say on their own because we are looking out for them,
Sure.
I'd like to do a comparison between those 25 that
Very
aren't
good.
accessing our LIFT and World Studies programs, seeing how they're doing versus the programs that we have in place, and are they really meeting the needs? Or is it that these kids are getting more mature? Or I know there are a variety of factors, but I'd like to see how these kids are doing that aren't
Okay.
accessing the courses we have.
No rush on that.
Okay,
so
thanks.
Maybe the next time you present this.
Sure.
The next question I have, and just out of curiosity, what's the oldest student we had take the GED and pass?
This year? Or I think 46 was the oldest we've had, yeah.
I just
So,
asked because, for the community's sake, it's not limited to what you would perceive as 18-year-olds. It's,
Not at all.
we've had a ton of people come back
Many adults.
that I'll say are more mature.
Yes.
Okay, that's great, and it's great that the Army and National Guard taking advantage of that. And with the LIFT program, my last question, do we offer it to the 47 students
Yes,
that
we
are
do.
identified.
Mhm.
Do we ever track or ask why they choose not to participate? I know it's a participative, or that we can't force them to do it, but it's offered. Do we? there-
We get some of the same reasons that we get for summer school, that we have vacation plans. We don't think that it's a good fit for our kid. We don't want our kids who have failed with other students that are at risk who have failed together during that 5 weeks. We've done our best to put out the message that it's a different course. They can really benefit from what we're offering, and it's unfortunate, to be honest, because I think you'll find, in fact, Katie Sullivan and I were commenting today that these kids are happy being in school for the 4 hours. They may not admit that to us, but you can see it on their faces that they feel comfortable in this learning environment, which is what we want to happen.
Several years ago, if the board remembers, there was a presentation, a video of the World Studies or LIFT program, I forget which one, that seemed pretty successful to me. And I was wondering if, and I'm sure you are, if there's some methodology we can address the parental concern relative to, well, geez, they're failing, what's it gonna do? And I'm sure you must be addressing that to some degree. Each year we learn more, right?
When we have the parent night at the middle school, and this is the past 2 years, every parent and student that have shown up to the parent night just to hear our message and hear kids talk about the program have signed up for the program.
Oh.
It's tracking down the others that didn't show up to the meeting and explaining the program, sending literature.
Sure.
I guess it's a harder sell for them, not being present.
I'm all set.
Okay, can I just follow up real quick on the question?
I don't have any more, sure.
We identified them at the end of the 8th grade year. Okay. Is there a group of population that you have a concern about at the 7th grade or mid-year cycle? Should
good
we
point.
move it, should we move some of the contact earlier, so maybe the parents set up their vacation plans on that, towards the end and in the spring of the year? If they're aware of this, they may change, or they may not change some of the vacation plans to maybe set it up for an August or an early date to maybe take advantage of this. It's just worth a shot that you might want to consider on that, to talk to the parents about the program. Not that I put my money down already on something.
All the 8th graders get notified in January with a letter from me stating the concern of failing and all the various options that are there. And then from there, the guidance counselors start working for the families. Every one of the kids who does not attend has been contacted personally, either the child, the parent. I don't know how much more we can do to get them to show. I mean, we can absolutely probably identify some of these kids by the end of 7th grade year, but they're the same students who I won't be able to get to go to summer school to move on from 7 to 8.
Okay.
And repeated contacts with parents. Some of them, it's legit, they're going with another parent for the summer or things like that. But in a lot of instances, you're really trying to convince the parent that we can get them through if they'll meet us halfway.
Okay. Thank you for that update.
We've also been very clear, and thanks again to the support of the board, that scholarships are available. Money is not an issue for the students entering this program. In fact, a lot of them have taken advantage of scholarships through the free and reduced lunch programs that we've used to dictate what their tuition would be, if any. So.
Well, Mr. Assistant Principal of the Year, I'd like to thank you for your entrepreneurial spirit and bringing us to the 1% dropout rate. And I know at this point you want to thank all of the people that work in the school, and I will also thank them. I know it's a team effort, and it's just amazing that we've been able to bring it to 1%, particularly with as large a district as we have. If we tuition in a student into the adult ed program from Hudson and Derry and Manchester, or you even had some South American students, and they decide to drop out, does that affect our dropout rate?
It The outside students, they are transfer students coming to our school. So I don't believe because they haven't been on the day books with us that they be reported to the state as dropouts. No.
By the way, it would be okay with me if it affected our dropout rate, because I would rather give them, it's a tuitioned program, and I would rather give them a chance and have them participate than to worry about the numbers. But I was curious on that. Now that the governor signed into law the age 18 bill, and we have 1% of our students, I think you said 20 students?
19, yeah.
What happens to those 19 students that dropped out? Do they take them off to jail? Do that? No, I'm not, I know I've joked about this bill before, but I'm actually serious. Do the parents get charged with a fine or a misdemeanor, or what happens to the 19 students and their parents?
Right. They've certainly been contacted. I know there are provisions within, because we have to submit reports to the superintendent to indicate the plans that we've had in place for our kids. And we do that, actually, to let them know who's transferring into our night program. The superintendent would then report that in every instance we've made, every concession we could to try to get a student a diploma or certificate of achievement through the GED testing. Once they don't meet that criteria, I believe the superintendent reports that and indicates that. I don't know if Nick could speak to it. There's not a lot we're going to do. We're not going to send a truant officer after a 17-year-old kid that won't come to school.
And what they're supposed to do under the law, when it goes into effect, it's supposed to be a year from now, I think it is. If a youngster is looking to remove themselves from school, they can remove themselves from school, the quote-unquote official school, but they have to have an alternative learning plan in which that has to be signed off on. Now, that alternative learning plan has to be approved by the high school principal or what have you, and it may be distance learning, it may be doing X, Y, and Z. But as far as the monitoring, that's going to be very interesting, to say the least.
So they could drop out of school and become a journeyman in a trade, and that would be a reasonable
Right.
alternative program.
If it was approved. If it was approved. Now, what's going to be very interesting, Steve, as you know, is, and it's not clear to me, whether or not, if an alternative plan is approved, let's say to do A, B, and C, whether or not the school district would then have any kind of financial liability for doing that. And it also, in indirect cost way, may have an impact on staffing, because who is going to follow up and monitor to ensure that, in fact, that is occurring. So it shall be interesting to see. And then, the supposed money that has gone along with this bill, which right now is being directed, if I remember correctly, towards some of the regional vocational centers. I'm not sure they're going to have the capacity to pick up additional students, and that they're supposed to develop some alternative learning centers through that in several different parts of the state. Supposedly there'll be some grant money to go for it, but we'll wait and see. But I think our argument has always been that if we're offering opportunities, and it becomes also the youngster and the family's obligation to take advantage of those alternative opportunities, and we offer quite an array of them.
George?
I have no question, but Jason, once again, thank you so much for your leadership. It's truly an inspiration. I love having you come here and tell us this stuff, because it's nothing but success after success after success. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you. The work of many.
Jason, I got a couple of questions for you. Sure. On the LIFT program, here you show where you are today. What would be nice to see where you were before we had the LIFT program. Of the students who were identified as at risk coming in, how many had 7 or more credits entering their sophomore year? Comparison to that to show the progress of the program and what the true effect of it is. Someone looking at this may not get the true effect of it and say, well, 10 out of 21 are on track. Whoa. What was it before we had the LIFT program, and how did the LIFT program make that difference on there? Again, the numbers on these pages are just phenomenal about how we're doing there. And I would ask Nate or Mark, I was wondering if you can take this letter, you know, put a cover letter on it, send it to our representatives and our senator to explain how you just don't pass a bill to tell the kids they must stay in school until they're 18, but show them how the programs need to be developed in the state, something similar to this or something like this, to show them how the programs are effective to make it happen. 203 students would not have received diplomas without the programs that we put here. And that is a credit to the administration, the teachers in this school district to make this happen. And I think we should toot our horns a little bit to our representatives and our senators, so when they get in and talk about this, they have an idea of what we're doing in the school district. It's a shame that this is being presented in July where very few people are watching this. But I thank you very much. I think this is a tremendous, tremendous effort. Thank you. Okay, Katie.
I think one thing Jay had on his notes, and he forgot to add about the LIFT program, this is my first year seeing the LIFT program at the high school, and like Jay was saying, we were out there talking today, and I think we need to give a big thanks to, correct me if I say his name wrong, but Steve Irochi and Lori Kippenberg, who are the teachers in that program. It is amazing the job that they're doing with those kids. I walk those halls all day long, and every time I walk past that hallway, one's teaching and one's out with a student or a group of students, whether doing a lesson or building a relationship with them. So it's been very rewarding to see the work that those two have both done this summer. So I just wanted to add that for Jay. But I am here to talk about the fourth quarter discipline report from Londonderry High School. I am proud to say that our numbers are increasingly going down each quarter. Art Salidas and I were talking about that today and trying to put our finger on why they keep going down. And we just give it back to the kids, and they're really wanting to come to school and behave, and it's been a really nice year with them. The first thing I would like to say is that the administration team would like to say thank you to our senior class, from senior supper to graduation to the prom. We didn't have, I believe we didn't have one issue that we dealt with any of the seniors. We didn't have a senior prank. The halls were there. They were attending school, and I think everything went smooth with our seniors this year, and that was nice to see. Two other people that I would like just to thank who help us out a lot with the students at Londonderry High School is Officer Childs. We use him as a support with a lot of our stuff that we deal with at the high school, and he's been a tremendous co-worker and helper to the administration team. And the second person is Adam Green, who's our in-school suspension monitor. At times, we have to have the kids visit that room, and he's been not only a person who the kids can talk to, but he also stays on top of getting them work. So when they're in there, they are utilizing and doing their work, so it's not a day wasted. I also want to just add that at the beginning of second quarter, what we call our frequent flyers, or the students who sometimes the administrators see a couple of times throughout the week, we were up to about 30 of those so-called students, and at the end of the fourth quarter, we narrowed that down to 9 kids. So that is some hard work with the administration team, the counselors, and the teachers to really wrap around these kids, figure out a plan for them, figure out a way to make them be successful throughout the school day. And their parents. We tie in their parents all the time when we're dealing with these children. It was a wonderful fourth quarter, and if you have any questions about the numbers or the report, I'd be happy to answer them.
Questions from the board? Katie, on the frequent flyers.
Yep.
How is the breakdown of that? It would be interesting how many 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders happen. And you show us a percentage of the 0.6, of 0.6% or your 9 students there. I guess the question I have is, you know, are these the same students that are a problem each semester, that the frequent flyers as they come up each semester?
Yep. They usually are. It was funny, at the beginning of the year, I was looking at our discipline report, and it was mostly freshmen
Yes.
who were the ones we were seeing who just haven't learned the ways of the high school yet and our demands. But now that we've noticed them, got them involved, did a wraparound approach with them, I think our 9 students that we have now are mostly sophomores to juniors that maybe we just haven't put the time forth with them yet, or our strategies just haven't worked with them yet as well. We only have 2 freshmen left on that list. And I can say with both of those, they're doing extremely well, too. It's just, they're still on our list, but they're both doing extremely well still.
Okay, the only other thing that might be interesting for me is it just a running total in your last column here of the total number of semesters. You've got here the total of 6 and 8, I assume, let's say for abusive and obscene language, and that's for the fourth quarter.
Yep.
What is the total, a running total as you go there? So the first quarter would be the same, then the next one would be the first and second quarter compared to the second quarter. So we have an overall look and see how it goes there.
That'd be great.
Okay.
Art Salidas helps me with this report, and we're trying new ways to figure out the easiest way to run these numbers. We used to do it all by hand and number crunch, and he's finding ways on our computer programs to better deal with this, and I will get you that report. I would say Art and I will get you that report. We just have to go back in the computer and figure out how to do it.
Okay. Thank you very much. Excellent report.
Can I also add just one thing while I have time?
Sure.
We had over 80 or 70, 80 students who ran the Big Buddy program at the high school, and I just want to personally say thank you to all of them, and thank you to the elementary schools, because these high school kids take the time out of their busy schedules to go down and mentor the elementary students, and I think it's a wonderful program, and I want to thank the students for putting in the time and effort into mentoring the young students.
Yeah.
And I think Jim's going to help me out here, because we did use our breathalyzer this past quarter, and Jim's going to be talking a little bit about that. Thanks.
Before I do, I'd just like to make an editorial comment. And even though I live at the high school every day, when I listen to Katie and I listen to Jason, I am blown away too, so I can imagine how you are. Just to reflect, it's amazing to think that the 24 kids that we started in Lift who were at a 0% success rate, now 20 out of those 24 are being successful. That over a 3-year period of time. We're not just talking about over a semester. To me, that's unbelievable. And it's also unbelievable to think that you look at a report like this and you look at fighting at an 1,800 school high school and you see 5, and that's not 5 fights, that's 5 kids. That's probably 2 fights, maybe 3. That is also unbelievable. And I think Katie and Jason just represent 2 of the people, right, of the many people that we have working with these kids every day to make these numbers happen. And it's not just numbers, it's in reality. When you come to the high school, you see it. So I just wanted to make that editorial comment. Also with the breathalyzer, yes, we are not proud, but we will tell you that we have used a breathalyzer for real, not just on Katie this year in practice, but we have used a breathalyzer for real. It was not at a dance. I did make a report to the superintendent as said in the policy. Basically what happened was we had 3 young men who entered school before school, or they were seen on school grounds before school started, and they were seen leaving school grounds before school started. Right away, we contacted the parents. We contacted the police department. We began to look for them, but lo and behold, a couple hours later, they decided to come to school. When they came to school, we felt that there was alcohol on the breath of one of the youngsters. We brought him into the office. We asked them if they had been drinking. They all denied it. We suggested to them that we went through the procedures that we have. The 2 youngsters two of the 3 youngsters who we didn't smell alcohol in the breath volunteered to take the breathalyzer and passed the breathalyzer, and they did not have alcohol in the breath. The youngster who we felt had alcohol in the breath continued to refuse to take the breathalyzer. Even by coincidence, his parents were there at the time and encouraged him to take the breathalyzer. And with his parents there, he refused to take the breathalyzer. And therefore, the two young people without the who were not said to have alcohol were just dealt with as leaving school without permission and being truant, whereas the young person who we felt had alcohol in his breath was dealt with as being in school with alcohol and was dealt with that way. So that report was made to the superintendent of schools. It was all documented, and we are reporting that to the school board. Also, to let you know, on the breathalyzer, we have sent both breathalyzers back to the company this summer to be recalculated and re-examined and calibrated. Thank you. And we should be getting them back in about a week or two, and we'll go through more training and testing as we did last year. But so far, I can say that we feel that the breathalyzer has been a positive addition to Londonderry High School. Not just as a tool that we use, because obviously it wasn't in great use, but certainly as a deterrent, and also as a statement made by this community to our students. So we thank the board for their support on that, even though we certainly spent many hours, as Mr. Young would say, discussing it, but I think it was worthwhile discussion and certainly a worthwhile adoption. So we thank you for that. Any questions on that? Or?
Questions? Seeing none, thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you, Jim. Andy is going to substitute for Blake this evening.
At the middle school, we had a wonderful fourth quarter, but our numbers do indicate that we had 25 students who were suspended out of school, which is up from 15 last year. And we also had an increase for in-school suspensions from 38 to 53. Of the 25 suspensions, 21 of those students had been suspended already in a previous quarter. One thing that always amazes me, though, is that 93% of our students, which is 1,217 children, came to school for 180 days and didn't have any infraction whatsoever. No demerits, nothing, which is just utterly amazing. And then the other number that jumped out at us is that 60% of our discipline incidents are a result of 16 children. Now, and to go back to Ron's question earlier, many of the children that are on this list, if I was to identify them as students, are the same children that at the end of 8th grade I'm working with Jason and guidance in entering the LIFT program. So can they be identified earlier? Yes. But it's still that partnership that has to occur, and we continue to go out of our way to offer various support systems for the parents through the guidance department, through the community counselor and that, and some of them just choose not to access it. But overall, it was a wonderful quarter, and I don't want to lose sight of all the wonderful kids that we have come in every day and do exactly what they're supposed to. Are there any questions from the board?
Questions from the board? Dan?
Andy, I think that's great. I mean, it's hard to sit there as 7th and 8th graders and not get a demerit, but what constitutes dangerous behavior?
It could be, let's see, a kid pushing another kid into a concrete wall. It could be a child throwing something in the cafeteria. Anything that really could result in something really significant happening.
Okay.
For the most part, they don't happen, but at the same time, it's trying to impress upon the child that the potential that's there.
And what's the category NA?
NA? I would have to ask Blake on that one.
Okay.
I can get back to you on that.
Next time you do the report, I mean, there's
Absolutely.
14 students with NA, so.
Yep.
Not in attendance, not applicable, I don't know, but just curious. Thank you.
Any other questions? Steve?
I have two. This might not be fair because Blake isn't here, but what constitutes a weapon?
Anything. What I mean is if you come in and let's say you went hunting over the weekend and in your backpack you had a knife from the fishing, okay? Yes, some of the kids come down to us, they tell us it's there, but it's still a weapon. You have a half-inch pocket knife, it's a weapon. So basically, there's no distinction between anything. It's either a weapon or it's not, and it's automatically 10 days out.
A 2-inch, a 1-inch Swiss Army nail cleaning kit with a knife blade on it?
10 days.
I won't ask the NA question, but there is, at the end, it says administrator totals, and it has Blake Richards, 3, and Andrew Corey, 1. What did you do wrong?
Maybe Blake works 3 times as hard.
But I'm just glad to see Blake still out ahead.
Okay. Thank you. We'll ask him when he comes next time.
Andy, what
That might be
constitutes the bullying?
3-1.
Bullying?
Yes.
It's a wide range of things. I think the best way that I explain it to children and to their parents is repeated behavior, especially after you've been warned. So let's say you're taunting me, Ron, with verbal things. A student brings that to attention of an administrator. We sit down with the student, we go through it, we find out how long it's been going on. Is this the first time? Has it been going on for a long period of time? Then we kind of, what I would say, put the child on notice, that this is unacceptable, you're not allowed to use that type of language, and some children will choose to continue it. So that's probably the most common type of bullying that you'll see.
If we have a situation where the bullying is directed at a particular person, do we notify the parents of that person so they're aware that there's an issue?
Yes. Yep. I mean, they normally will get a phone call. Many times, the first indication we get of bullying is the parent contacting us, because the child is not telling somebody during the school day. Maybe it's happening in the hallways or someplace where we just don't see it. But they'll go home, and all of a sudden, one day, they're just going to start to break down, and they'll tell their parents, and we'll get the phone call. So then we work with those parents, and we notify the other set of parents if bullying is occurring.
Okay, if the parents don't call you and you pick it up on your own, that there's something occurring, would you contact the parents that the child is the victim, the child that is the victim on that?
The first time you came in and somebody was maybe taunting you, okay?
Yes.
I probably won't call, because that's very, very common. The other child needs to be notified that that's not acceptable, okay? Because at that point, we just have a child who maybe has said something inappropriate. The other child who maybe Nate thinks it's funny and you think it's inappropriate. So it's up to us as the administration to work the child through that and make them understand why it's not an appropriate comment. And it's kind of a very appropriate developmental approach, because many 6th and 7th graders don't know that some of the language that's used maybe on TV or on the bus or, other places is not appropriate in the school environment. So you kind of get that, and again, that's an administrator's call. If the language is totally inappropriate, the phone call is going to take place. If I said, oh, you're a big baby, some kids are very hurt by that, but the other child may not understand that.
I would expect that on the second time the parent will be notified.
Correct. Yeah,
Okay,
any
and I-
continuous process of bullying, the parent gets notified, and if it becomes something that we identify as bullying, the process is the superintendent is also notified.
Okay, and if it becomes even the first time on a physical type of arrangement, would you be notified?
If any physical, it's probably going to fall into that category of maybe not even bullying, but into almost fighting. Invading somebody's personal space is almost a different thing. If we find
Okay.
it's a result of bullying, let's say I've been taunting you for 3 or 4 days, and now you lash out and give me 2 hands to the chest, okay? We're going to go through the whole process of why what you did is still inappropriate, but we're going to recognize what happened here and be in contact with both sets of parents.
Okay, I got to ask a question. Is that in our policy to do that? Is it written somewhere, or is it
Yes,
just
we
in?
have a bullying policy.
I know we do, but is it the contact of the parents in that policy?
I believe so.
I think,
I'll go back and
Yeah.
take a look.
I believe I know it is, Ron, because we have actually had to, there's a piece that's also a written contact.
Right.
Because I
Okay.
have had to send formal letters to parents, notify them of their child's repeated bullying.
Right, I'm more concerned about the person that's receiving the bullying
Yeah.
right now. I know we take care of the other one, I realize the policy, I'm just not sure of the other end of that.
Yeah, oftentimes, is where it becomes an administrative call is it, as opposed to bullying, a youngster may be perceived that they're being bullied, but if it's, Dan, you know, you're a real baby, knock it off, and I'm tired of you whining, Dan may perceive that as bullying. Andy picks up on it, speaks to the child, and says, you gotta stop saying that to him, that's inappropriate. Two kids talk, and hopefully they'll do it. If it then happens again, then it falls into the category, I would think, of bullying. Now, there are some things that the first time around would be considered bullying, but keeping in mind that we're dealing with sixth, seventh, and eighth graders, a lot of the talk that goes over their head as far as that is something that is taunting. So we try to take an educational approach and say that's not appropriate. If it's repeated, then it's something. But there are sometimes kids will say something the first time, and based on the discussion, we know that was designed to bully or taunt somebody, and then immediately that stuff kicks in.
I guess my question is, and I'll pull out the policy also, but I was just making sure that we notify the parents and that's in writing somewhere
Yes.
that happens.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay,
Okay,
Nate?
yeah, going back, what seems like several months now, at the request of the board, the idea was to take a look at elementary space needs. And what I want to do, even though the board has a copy of this report and I have some additional information which I've given you this evening, I just want to walk through it for the sake of the audience and people in TV land so that everybody's got a framework. The purpose really was to examine our current utilization of instructional space and based on enrollment projection and program needs for both regular and special ed students, recommend instructional space utilization through the 2010-2011 school year. The variables involved in the study, or the review, are class size, special education programs, which includes district-wide resource rooms and support services, enrollment projections for both regular ed and special ed, including severity of disabilities, program needs for things like library, art, music, training, appropriate instructional space, and rolling enrollment at LEAP. And by rolling enrollment, I mean LEAP is different than our other programs in that youngsters age into that program at various times during the school year. So at 3, a youngster may turn 3 in January, and that makes that youngster under the special education law eligible for the LEAP program, which is different than grades 1 through whatever. Here's the methodology we use. For the school year 07-08, we took our actual numbers as of June 2007. For school years 08 and 09, projected kindergarten based on a multi-year average. Grade 1 was a kindergarten enrollment of 306, multiplied by the 3-year average of kindergarten enrollment percent by school. In other words, for the last 3 years, Matthew Thornton got 36% of the kindergarten kids, South 33%, and North 31%. And then I multiplied that by a ratio of 1.14, which is the multi-year ratio of kindergarten to first grade. All right? In grades 2 through 5, I just use straight line projections. For school years 09 through 09, 10, and 10 and 11, I assume kindergarten enrollment of 315 based on a multi-year average. And for grade 1, I use the same methodology as I just described, but utilizing enrollment figure of 315. And for grades 2 through 5, I use straight line projections. In special ed, for the LEAP program, which is housed at Moose Hill School, we use starting enrollments were based on a 3-year average. Inclusion ratios are based on one identified student to a 0.68 inclusion students. That has been our historic number for the last couple of years as of October 1st. So for every special ed kid, we had 0.68 inclusion kids. Then October to May enrollment was increased based on a multi-year average multiplier of 1.38. Over the past years, our LEAP enrollment increased by that multiplier, so we try to take that into accommodation. The Friends 1 program, the projections are based on actual numbers. Friends 2 program based on actual numbers through 09-10 and previous history of entering 3-year-olds. The BAS program, projections based on actual numbers. PFS program, enrollment based on actual numbers through the 09-10 school year, and 10-11 school year projections based on historical pattern.
Nate, before you go on, can you please just expand on what the Friends 1 program is, the
Right.
Friends 2 BAS?
Right. The Friends 1 and 2 program is our program for autistic kids. Our BAS program is a basic academic skills program, which is a district-wide program. There's youngsters that have developmental delay, I think is the appropriate term to use. The PFS program is our for youngsters with emotional problems, and that's a program that's over at South School. Okay? Special ed population projections, which is non-district-wide programs. In other words, what are our projections based on the kids, kids who are receiving resource room services in the school, based on multi-year percentage to total population. At the kindergarten, it's been 12%, and Matthew Thornton, it's 16%, South is 16%, and North is 17%. So what we then did was so that as the enrollment changed, this is for the purpose of this study, if the enrollment went up 20 kids at school X, I used that number, multiplied it by 16%, and got the number of kids. I couldn't think of another way of doing it. Seemed there was some logic to it. Enrollment projections by school. You'll see that going from 07-08 through the school year 10-11, Matthew Thornton's enrollment would go from 713 to 644. North would go from 553 to 544. So North is pretty well flat. Now, one of the caveats I want to have here with North is the North School District is the one where we're going to have the potential for most growth with construction. Not knowing what the historical pattern is with the homes they're building, I just left it straight line projection, but knowing that if we're going to have growth, it's going to be in that area. South, going from 616 to 598. So what you really see is North and South, all things being equal, those enrollment patterns, are relatively flat when you take into account. There's not a significant difference. Looking at Moose Hill, kindergarten enrollment 306 to 315. The 315 is based on historical pattern. Keep in mind that we had a significantly higher kindergarten population, not last year, but the year before. And since we really don't have accurate information of the kids coming in, I had to use a historical projection to get my kindergarten numbers. The L numbers there represent LEAP. Okay, so what you have is the first number, 95, is the number that we start out with, and 113 is the number that we've ended the year with. And I showed the pattern and the formula that we've used to get there. Then what I showed you was the special ed projections by school. This is resource room students. This is not district-wide programs. And then that's based off of the percentage in the enrollment. So you've got that background number, so we had an understanding of what we would have to have for space. Then the first step, obviously, after doing all this, was taking a look at current room utilization issues by school. In Matthew Thornton, we have a total number of classrooms we have is 40, 8 of which are undersized rooms. There are 660 square feet. 36 rooms are presently used as classrooms, of which 5 are the undersized rooms. 2 undersized rooms are for district-wide special ed program. 1 room has been divided in half so that we can use it as 2 resource rooms to have special ed students go in for resource room support. We have 1 undersized room which is used for OT and PT services, and the stage is used for music. Issues. Current resource room space is not adequate for the number of students that we have. We utilize the cafeteria from 9 in the morning to 10:30 in the morning, and then from 1:30 to 3 o'clock for instructional, small group instruction. And we utilize the annex, which is a euphemism for a converted storage space that's in the back of the building. So if you go to the back of the building by one of the entrances, it's a converted storage space that we use from 9 to 10:30 and then from 1:30 to 3:30. And if memory serves, we have also used some of the landings for instructional space too, because if board members, remember when we go on the tour of Matthew Thornton, when we go up to the second floor, there's that landing area, and we have that folding table that's also used for small group instruction also. South School, total number of rooms presently is 34. 31 rooms are used as classrooms. One room is used for district-wide special ed program, that's the PFS program. One room is used for reading, remedial reading instruction, and one room is a resource room. Issues that we presently have, the PFS program is in a 300 square foot space. That program is getting bigger. We're also looking, put in for program approval to allow us to have youngsters in that room for longer periods of time. So presently, you can have youngsters in for a certain percentage of the time, and then they're mainstreamed out. If you want to have the youngsters in for a longer period of the day, then we've got to file for a program approval, and in doing that, we really need some additional space to allow us to do that. And that, we think, is more educationally effective and probably more cost effective. There's no conference room for special ed. Resource rooms are over capacity. A closet has been converted, which is 100 square feet for small instructional groups. Room 115, which is 264 square feet, is overcrowded with students receiving resource instruction and OT. There's no art room or music room. North School, total number of classrooms they have are 29. 27 are being used as regular ed rooms this year. One is used as a resource room. One is used for OT and PT. And art and music are housed in the 300 square foot areas. And if you've gone through it, you've seen that art room, which is 300 square feet, which is right where the new addition abuts the old addition. It would be on the right-hand side, if memory serves correct. And music is on the other side of the building, right, Rich? They're both 300 square feet. Moose Hill, total number of rooms we have are 16 in the sensory motor room, which is that big room that we have that we use for PT and OT for the LEAP kids and the special ed kids. It's specifically designed. 9 are used as kindergarten. We have 4 district-wide special ed rooms. That's 3 for LEAP and 1 for the Friends program. 1 resource room. We use 1 room for a library, and we're using 1 room for the district computer training lab. Issues, based on enrollment projections for LEAP, we'll probably need another classroom space for the 08-09 school year, necessitating the movement of the computer training lab. Now, before I go into recommendations, Peter, if you want to start putting up the charts first, maybe just visually, let's start with the Matthew Thornton chart. And while you're doing that, I'll just walk through. What we try to do here is give you a chart, so to speak, to show how everything was laid out. What we've done is, under the existing conditions from 06-07 through the 10-11 school year, taking a look at the grade levels, the number of sections or number of classrooms at each grade level, what the enrollment is, and what the class size would be. And then how we're utilizing the rooms, the additional rooms. So let me give you just an example. For 08-09 at Matthew Thornton, we have a total of 40 classrooms, 32 regular-sized classrooms, 8 undersized classrooms, which are 600 square feet. We'll be using 32 of those rooms for classrooms. 3 of the undersized rooms would be used for the district-wide special ed programs. That's Friends 1, 2, and BAS. 1 room, which is split in half, will be used for resource rooms. There's no reading room per se. There's 1 undersized room for OT and PT. Nothing for ESL. 1 for art. Music is on the stage. And we have 2 smaller rooms that we can use that we're using for resource rooms, special curriculum, and so forth. All right. And for 08-09, what we'd be looking at would be possibly moving the computer training lab, which we have at Moose Hill, over to Matthew Thornton or another location. But in looking at this, what you can see is that in 07-08, the current school year, we're projecting 34 classrooms with an average class size of 21. For 08-09, at present, we're projecting 32 classrooms with an average class size of 21, really, 20.6. It was 21. And those numbers staying basically the same across the board, 32, 32, 32. Okay? Which, in this scenario, provides us with the space necessary to have our district-wide special ed programs grow, provide the appropriate space, move kids out of hallways, move kids out of closets, and provide appropriate instructional space, and maintain what we consider to be a legitimate class size. That's Matthew Thornton. South School, we've got to look at two ways. And then, all right? What was provided here across the board, you'll see, is the current configuration with the total number of classrooms, which would be 34. That includes the 8 modulars, right, and the 26 regular classrooms. Okay? For 07-08, what we're looking at is using 29, having 29 classes. Average class size would be 21. Okay? Out of the 34 classrooms, 29 would be used for classrooms, 2 for resource rooms, 1 for reading, 1 for special ed, and 1 for either art or the PFS program. What we're still debating at this point how we're going to utilize that depending on the PFS, but push comes to shove, probably PFS would go in where the art is. Now, for 08-09, again, assuming that we stay the same, we would have 28 instead of 29 classes, because our enrollment drops a little bit to 601, gives us a slightly higher class size, 21.7, almost 22, compared to 21. 34 classrooms, 28 would be used for regular ed, 1 for district-wide special ed, 2 resource, reading, special ed, and art. Now, again, I had just gone through what the issues are with space for special education, ESL, reading, and so forth. Now, if the modulars are removed and we replace that with 6 classrooms as a proposal, instead of 34 instructional spaces or 34 rooms, you have 32. So just using the 08-09, what you would have would be 28 would be used as classrooms, 1 for district-wide special ed, 1 for resource room, 1 for reading. Now, the reason, and 1 for art. Now, the reason that you don't have those additional special ed spaces listed here is that under the proposal, there is, in the remodeling, built-in small instructional areas, just like we did at North School, all right? And then you'll see how, everything is laid out. And again, South School, as it appears on the projections, the enrollments are fairly flat as you go out to 2010, 2011. Right? And you do have some flexibility here as far as actually having an art room, and we still don't have a music room, but it gives us some flexibility for our special ed and making sure our kids have it. North School. Let's look at that. Again, there we go. 07-08, we're looking at 26 classes to be used out of 26 regular ed rooms out of the 29 total classrooms that we have. That gives us an average class size of 21.3. Largest class we have would be in 5th grade at about 23, right, Rich? Right. Average class size. There's no district-wide special ed programs up at North. 1 resource room. We're reclaiming after this year the room that had been designed as the reading resource room. So that goes back to being that as opposed to a classroom. We have OT, PT, speech space, and then art and music are housed in 300 square foot rooms, which I told you about before. Going to 08-09, Again, the enrollment there is basically flat. We go from 553 to 557 because even next year, it's interesting the way our kindergarten numbers have fallen. Next year, Rich is getting a smaller number of first graders because of the distribution of kindergarten kids for the 07-08. But for 08-09, based on enrollment, his first grade numbers are going to go up. Carol's first grade numbers are going to go down, just because of the geographic location of everybody. So here you can see where everybody is spread out. The next school we looked at was Moose Hill, and how we laid that out. Looking at 07, 08, what we have, again, we have total number of classrooms we have there are 16. We have one specialty room, that's the multi-sensory room that we talked about. 9 are being used for kindergarten, 4 for district-wide special ed programming, that's 3 for LEAP and 1 for Friends, right? 1 resource room, and 2 other rooms where we have 1 room that we use for the library and 1 for computer training. Now in 08-09, if our numbers hold, what we're looking at are 9 regular ed classrooms, 5 special ed district-wide classrooms, because we anticipate our LEAP enrollments going up, so we're going to need the additional instructional space for that. 1 resource room, hold on to the library, and we have to find a place someplace else for the computer training lab that we have, right? 9, 10, and 10, 11, basically the same as that. No difference there. All right. And then what I did was, and not to bore everybody with the numbers, you'll see Brian had done a good job on the backup data on all the special ed numbers and how we did the projections, and I don't want to go through that. So based on that, this information, the recommendations we made were as follows. And then I'm going to add something in here, because in anticipating some questions people might ask, we figured, well, maybe we'll pass some stuff out, and we did some work. Here's the recommendations. At this point in time, population projections indicate a decline in elementary enrollment in grades 1 through 5 through 2010-2011. Matthew Thornton enrollment will go from 713 to 644, from 07-08 to 10-11. North will show an imperceptible decline from 553 to 549 during the same period. South will go from 616 to 598 during the same time frame, and Moose Hill will remain basically flat at approximately 315 students. We are projecting, based on past history, a continual increase of students in the LEAP program, slight increases in district-wide special ed programs, and a relatively minor decrease for total population for non-district-wide special ed students. Please keep in mind that our projections do not reflect possible construction, as I've said before, on the drawing board for the north end of town. The enrollment decline does provide us with an opportunity to provide appropriate instructional space for district-wide special ed programs, LEAP, Friends, PFS, and move special ed resource rooms and supplemental instruction out of cafeterias, hallways, and libraries, as well as moving other groups of students out of converted closets and overcrowded rooms and instructional spaces into more appropriate environments. We have also applied for a program approval for a modified PFS program, allowing us to have selected students in a more self-contained environment. This necessitates a larger instructional space than the present 300 square feet that I've mentioned that we have at South for this program. 2, we also very strongly recommend continuation of our present class sizes to facilitate instruction and maintain the quality of the same. This class size recommendation will result in a possible reduction of 2 classes at Matthew Thornton in the 08-09 school year. Next, we also recommend that where possible, instructional space be allocated to art and music in grades 1 through 5. This serves a dual purpose. First, it provides an enhanced instructional environment for these important subjects, and secondly, it provides a safety valve for enrollment spikes or possible redistricting that may arise in the foreseeable future. Regarding South School, the proposal presented to the board would eliminate the portables, reduce the number of classrooms from 34 to 32, as well as provide appropriate special education and small group instructional space, and dovetails nicely with all the variables, enrollment, special ed needs, etc. Thus, I recommend to the board that the board move forward with the proposed project. We've gone through the attached room utilization charts. Now, one thing that I also want to keep in mind, that the district-wide, being able to maintain space for the district-wide special education programs is of significant consequence for us on two fronts. First, from my perspective, what I consider to be the most important is the fact that we believe provides a better program than having kids go out of district and being able to maintain kids in district. Second, the net savings to the district on a yearly basis for the Friends program at the elementary level, that's the Friends program at Matthew Thornton, the BAS program at Matthew Thornton, and the PFS program at South School is roughly $1.2 million. That's the net savings. When you take what it costs us for staff versus what it would cost us if we send these youngsters out of district, pay tuition and transportation. Right? So having the space to do that becomes, in my mind, both educationally appropriate and also financially appropriate and prudent. Now, somebody might say, and you have some charts in front of you, and I believe Peter's got them. Okay, that's all well and good. Well, let's take a look at a couple of other scenarios. The first chart that will go up will be South School, or a lacrosse player, depending on.
He's a South School student.
He used to be a South School student. Okay, here we go. It's the South School Hawks. Does that look like a hawk to you, Linda? Yes, it does. Okay. On the left-hand side, you'll see the South School 0708 before redistricting. We've got 34 classrooms. 29 would be used for regular ed programs. Enrollment is 616, an average class size of 21. Okay. Now, you could say, all right, let's just take those. What would happen if you just took those 8 portables away, right? And what would happen then? We go from 34 classrooms to 26, right? Then you would wind up with a total of 21 sections in order to maintain space for SPED and special programs, and you'd wind up with an average class size of 30. 25 in first, 30 in second, 30 in third, 31 in fourth, 33 in fifth. Average class size of 30. Okay, then what would happen if you look, now keep in mind now that we now have reduced it from 34 to 26. So, okay, let me see how many classrooms I would need for the 616 students to get class sizes towards what we have now, which I would consider the appropriate class sizes. The result would be you would then need 30 regular ed classrooms, which is a little difficult since all you've got is 26. So you're 4 short. That also means that you don't have a room for special ed, the district-wide special ed program. There's no room for art, there's no room for music, and there's no room for special curriculum. So you're 4 classrooms short. So just eliminating portables and keeping everybody there, you don't have enough room if you want to maintain class size the way it is. All right. Okay, Greenberg, that makes sense, but what happens if you take 160 kids, which is roughly what you would house in 8 classrooms, and you take them out of South, and we're going to move them someplace else. So first, let's look and see what happens at South. We're moving 160 kids out, but when we move up groups of kids, we cannot cherry pick grade levels. What we have to do is look, if we're going to redistrict, we look at neighborhoods. Because you can't have a bus go down the street, pick up Dan and take him to South School, go past Ron, because he's now going to North, and then pick up George. And then have another bus come by and pick Steve up.
No, I'm not redistricting my neighborhood.
Right, exactly. So what we had to do was take a look at different neighborhoods, and it was Century Village was included in this, right, Peter?
Yes.
Yeah, and then, actually, if I think, anyways, it was neighborhoods, okay, of which we don't want people to get upset.
That's a good way to
Neighborhoods.
leave it.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So that gets us to 456 kids if we move 160 kids out. 21 classrooms, class size of 19, 21, 20, 25, 24, average of 22. Not too bad, okay? That leaves us with 5 rooms, so you still have space for special ed, special programs. Now, if I wanted to get those numbers close to what we've got now, the 21 jumps to 23. The impact is you don't have art space, you have no music, you don't have reading resource, and there's no special curriculum or district-wide special ed space. So you have to make a swap off somewhere there. There have to be a choice of programs. Okay, South School, not too bad. Now, where are those 160 kids going? Well, they go to their next school. They flop over to Matthew Thornton. Okay? And Carol said, I would like those 160 kids. She said that to me this morning.
As long as they come with the computers.
That's right, as long as they are all tech rich. So, all right, so if we look at Matthew Thornton now, this is in the upper right-hand corner. Matthew Thornton, before the redistricting, would have 34 classes. So if I just move the 160 kids over, and I keep the same number of classrooms, 34, the average class size that goes from 21 to 26. That's 24 kids in first, 24 in second, 24 in third, 28 in fourth, and 28 in fifth. Too large. Class size is too large. With 34, I can maintain the space for special ed programs, but now I've really bumped up my regular ed classroom size, and I don't think that's appropriate. You know, I think it's appropriate to keep them down with the numbers that we have now because we've had really good success. So, if I then say, all right, let me get my class sizes down to somewhere close to what they are for 07, 08. Well, I go from 34 classrooms to 40, which is all of Carol's classroom space. So to get to an average class size of 22, I now use all 40 classrooms, which means I have no space for district-wide SPED programs. That's both Friends and the BAS. I have no resource rooms. I have no space for OT or art. Now, what I may have to do is take music off the stage and put art or special ed or recess up there. So now I'm still using that annex room, the converted closet, so I'm using all this other stuff. And I have no room for anything. Okay, Greenberg, you move the 160 in, that doesn't make sense. How about taking some kids out of Matthew Thornton and sending them up to North? Okay, so what we did was we said, okay, let's take roughly a little more than 3 classrooms worth and send them up to North School, 72 kids. So you look at North School, it's, for 07, 08, we're looking at, I'm sorry. I'm going to take 72 out and send them to North, so I'm still going to look at Matthew Thornton. I'm looking at the tiger here, and here we go. So now, instead of 713 kids, I have 801, which is obviously less than what we had if we just take the 160 kids and plop them in there. So I have 801 kids now, a net of 801. Takes me 34, if I keep the same number of sections, 34, my average class size is 24. 21, 22, 22, 26, 26. Larger than I would want them to be, particularly at grades 4 and 5. So by adding 3 classrooms, I now have 37 sections, an average class size of 22, which is still bigger than what the average class size would be before redistricting. With 37 classrooms, I still don't have space for the district-wide SPED programs. I lose 1 resource room, and I have no space for art. Or I do some other reconfiguration, but I'm really jammed for space. I'm not solving any of the issues. I still have the continuing agita that I've got now with lack of instructional space for the small group instructional and remedial work. Okay, I moved those 72 kids out of Matthew Thornton. They are now going up to North School. They're going to become bears instead of tigers. Isn't that a cute little bear right there? Okay, so prior to the redistricting for 07, 08, we're looking at 26 sections and average class size of 22. All right? So if I take the 72 kids and I just plop them, I move them up to North School and maintain 26 sections, I go from an average class size of 22 to an average class size of 24. 20 in first, 23 in second, 25 in third, 28 in fourth, and 27 in fifth. Some of those, from my perspective, are unacceptable numbers. Now, doing that, the increased class size, I still have, I've got some space for special ed, and I have some space for special programs. If I want to get class size down to numbers that are relatively close to what we have now, and we're even projecting for 07, 08, larger numbers than I want in first grade, we now go from 26 sections to 30. Keep in mind, we only have 29 classrooms. And that would get me 20 in first, 20 in second, on average 21, 23, 23, an average class size of 21. So, being that I only have 29, I'm one classroom short, and that means there's no reading space, I have no special ed resource room space, I'm one classroom short, and what I would have to do is take the 300 square foot rooms that we're using for music and art, use them for resource rooms, which is just going to compound the problem that I have, and special curriculum space. So if I play the domino game, and I take 8 classrooms worth of kids out of South, and I move them to Matthew Thornton, and then I take 72 kids from Matthew Thornton, and I move them up to North, all I've done is move around 230 some odd kids, and not really created a good instructional situation. All right? So, and there's obviously the dislocation, large classrooms, and then you have the potential of losing some of the district-wide programs, which means budget's going to go up one way. Now, are you going to save on, depending on the scenario, couple of 3 teaching instructional positions? Sure, but you're not going to be able to make up the money that you're losing or actually adding back into the budget for special ed programs. I would also submit to you that if you did the math and took out what it would cost us to pay bond and principal for the proposed project at South School, we would still come out ahead taking into account the special ed kids. And that's just the financial side. The educational side, depending on which scenario you use on not replacing 6 out of the 8 rooms, I think you create some very difficult instructional situations, both in the regular classroom as well as resource rooms, special ed, and making it more difficult to provide small group or individualized services in classrooms where you got 25, 26 kids. So, and then not to mention the fact that if we do that, and we do have growth up at North, there's no place to put the kids. And you couldn't slide the kids back from North back to Matthew Thornton without creating more of a problem there, because you really can't take 72 kids and move them up to North because there's not enough space, so you're retaining more. So you're going to wind up moving more kids down. May also mean that depending on how the neighborhoods go and what the timing is of the construction, kids that maybe moved from Matthew Thornton to North wind up moving from North back to Matthew Thornton. Kids that went from South to Matthew Thornton may wind up going from Matthew Thornton back to South. So conceivably, you could have kids doing double moves within a 4 or 5 year period. And, you know, that begins to pose a problem. And then realistically, when you look at redistricting within the confines, it may be Dan is now going into his 5th year at North School. Does it, in South School, does it make sense to move him for 1 year to Matthew Thornton for 5th grade and then move him again to middle school the next year? Probably not, so you wind up holding on to some kids. Then you got issues where you got split families and the whole bit. So, in looking at this, I guess what I'm looking at this as, and I'm putting on my education hat, I'm looking at this decline in enrollment, in a sense, as a blessing on a couple of levels. One, it allows us to take what I would consider to be not ideal or not appropriate instructional space and be able to move those kids back into the classroom. Two, it gives us a little bit of flexibility and breathing room district-wide, depending on where the growth is in the district and how the turnover is. Allows us to maintain class sizes the way they are, allows us to maintain our and even grow a little bit, our district-wide special ed programs, which are better educationally and certainly are more cost-effective. Allows us to continue with the quality of programming that we've provided for the kids. I believe it's an effective utilization of funds, it's effective utilization of personnel. I think we have demonstrated over the last several years that when the numbers dictate, that we will reduce positions. I think we've dropped 5 elementary positions over the last couple of years. We'll probably drop another 2 in the next budget process based on the enrollment numbers. So when the numbers are there, you do it. But I guess one of the key, aside from obviously quality staff, one of the key things I think for a successful elementary program is maintaining a really good class size to allow for small group instruction, individualization, focusing in on the kids at the elementary level and working real hard on those basic skills and giving them the necessary reinforcement, I think is the key to success going on to middle school and the high school. I think what you do is grow problems by having having large class sizes and not allowing the teachers to interact, provide that support in the classroom. And sometimes it's not the kids that are having the most difficulty or the really bright kids that suffer, it's the kids in the middle. Right? So it's 6 of one, half dozen of the other. You can mix and match this stuff, you know what I mean? We could have gone through and said, here's what it looks like in 08, 09, but I think you got the idea here. And I guess from my perspective, I think if you look at the overall scenario, the domino effect, if you want to call going to 10, 11 long term, but that's as far as I'm willing to go on population projections without using Harry Potter's magic wand, that it makes sense. A construction project that reduces the amount of classroom stock based on appropriate numbers allows us on an elementary level to provide not only regular education instruction, but appropriate space for special curriculum, remediation, intervention, and district-wide programming. Long-term, it makes sense, and gives us a little bit of flexibility. And I don't think it's overbuilding, and it gives us an opportunity to do that. And maximize the use of our facilities. That's my 2 cents, and I'm sticking to it.
Comments from the board? Dan, you want to start over there?
Yeah, Nate, I think this is a excellent synopsis of where you believe we're going to be, but can I ask Brian to come forward for a minute? A lot of this space is centered around special education, not only special curriculum and, other issues as well. I'd like to talk about the Friends program for a minute. Seems like at the 3, 4, and 5-year-old level that we have roughly, depending which year it is, about 3 children per age group. Okay? So if you multiply that by simple math, you have 15 for the elementary group if it's consistent. And I see a comment that you made through here, as I read through here, that it's possible that we have people moving in, and it seems like we're seeing that on a consistent basis, so that 15 may be even a little bit low. But just simple math, if you take our 3, 4, and 5-year-old populations of roughly 3 per age group, multiply it by the elementary level 5, it's 15. Now, we started Friends 2 last year, did we not?
Correct.
And we started that due to space limitations with only 4 to 6 participants, which I don't want to say are the most severe, but the ones that would benefit the most from the program. And I believe that your presentation to the board, that's been a successful program, and as talked about some of this cost savings by we've been able to, some of those children may have been outplaced or may needed other requirements that's probably in that $1.2 million that Nate's alluding to. What happens to the other, so we have 4 to 6 children in Friends 2 now, did we end up with 6?
What I did for the...
So what happens to those other 9 children?
Well, certainly, the Friends program is a program for children with autism. And,
Sure.
and children with autism come in a real significant range of the level of acuteness in terms of how much they can or cannot be in a typical classroom, what the nature of their disability, and sort of how much services they require. So some kids with autism are in regular classrooms all day long. Some kids are in significantly separate kinds of learning environments. The question relative to the numbers, I used actual numbers. Now, could we get 2 or 3 kids, 4 or 5 kids move in? No question. So in terms of providing, you know, the data to Nate, I used the actual numbers of kids that we had. We do find out about kids before they turn 3. We work really hard with the early intervention folks to find out, you know, and project for and plan and budget for kids who we know who are getting services through early intervention, who might be 1 or 2 years old, so that we can kind of plan for them. But the numbers are volatile and could certainly change.
I guess I'm not sure that answers my question. I'll ask it a different way. It's similar to the high school. When the community was generous enough to pass the high school bond, what we did is we created some programs and pulled some children that were outplaced back into the district and provided them services in-house. Currently, I guess these are projections and they're linear and they're based on averages, which I certainly understand you have to do. But also, it cannot take into consideration the severity of disabilities of the children relative to space. So we saw, whether anybody can put a hard number to it, I'm sure we can, we saw significant savings with the high school because we were able to pull some children in that we simply couldn't educate or provide services to relative to space limitations. One factor, you can't simply look at the number when you're talking special ed, in my mind. You have to look also at space relative to those children's needs, and you're much more versed than I on that, relative to confined areas, timeout areas, all that has to be taken into considerations, I assume.
Absolutely.
So space also gives us, I believe, that capability to provide these children with additional opportunities of educational development.
Absolutely.
I would agree
I
with
just
that.
that's the point I was
Yeah.
trying to get
I would
across.
agree with that.
I think a perfect example is, I had alluded earlier to the PFS program over at South School. Because of the requirements by the state and really appropriate educational requirements, if we want to have kids in a more self-contained environment within that program, we have to have more space than we presently have. And absent that space, what you wind up with is a youngster that you could provide service to, but because that youngster is now in that instructional space for 70% of the time, as opposed to 40% of the time, and the space isn't appropriate, that child now would be deemed not having an appropriate educational program. You have to send that child out. Right?
That's
Right?
kind of where I was trying to get.
That's
I
exactly
think
correct.
that's the point
Okay.
you're getting at. So as our the Friends program, and now you piggyback on the Friends program, we could have 3 kids come up who have moderate to mild autism, or on the spectrum someplace, and the space that we have will be okay. You could have 3 other kids come up who are moderate to severe, and because they're spending more time and they need more space, and the instructional methodologies or the timeout space is required, you need more space than you presently have. So when we're working with the special ed kids, they're obviously, the point you're making is well founded. Not only is it numbers, but it is also severity of the disability and the amount of time that a youngster has to spend in a particular instructional area to receive appropriate services. The other thing that you have to look at, aside from the district-wide, and I think this gets to the other point, is resource room space. Depending on the number of youngsters that are receiving resource room services outside of the classroom, and what grade levels they're in, and what their level of disability, you can have periods of time where you have overloaded or overstressed your instructional space, because as you notice, the grade levels vary as far as numbers. Also, the number of kids and the severity of disabilities that have occurred at different grade levels. And so not have the kids out during prime instructional time, you are then locked into certain periods of time where you've got to have these groups of kids receiving instruction. That requires certain space characteristics. If a youngster is has multiple disabilities and is still receiving resource room, they've got to be in let's say that resource room receiving additional services for longer periods of time, which means that youngster's instructional program, time-wise, can overlap other students. And what we try to point out in the backup here, I think Brian did, he showed numbers of students at certain times in certain locations, okay, and some of them are pretty tight. So when you look at it, you've got to take all those things into account: numbers, severity, amount of time needed, people that have to provide the services for those youngsters. So,
Yes.
I have a follow-up to that. What if we just outplace the most severe disabilities?
Well-
Essentially a hybrid, keep in-house those with the mild disabilities and outplace the severe,
well,
to avoid that issue of space that you talked about.
all right. Right now, we have outplaced our most severe kids. They're presently being serviced at a district. We are, in district, we are servicing some kids towards the severe end of the spectrum, if you want to, or disabilities. But those are kids that we believe should be able to stay in their home school. So by not doing that, what would have happened, I think, are several things. You may reduce your space requirement by 60 square feet, 75 square feet, 80 square feet, not enough that it would change what you would be able to use for space, and you would be increasing your district transportation, out-of-district transportation. And let's say, for instance, you've got 4 kids in the Friends program, and you're able to, and you say, well, this one youngster is really, really severe and we can move them out. I don't change my square foot requirements, really. I mean, if I'm gonna take one kid out, I'm not gonna be able to take them from a room with 600 square feet and move them back to a room with 300 square feet. Probably the only staff member that I'm gonna probably be able to reduce by would be, let's say, a full-time instructional assistant, because I still need the teachers for the other kids. So the net savings, let's say, would be, let's say, $15,000 on an instructional assistant, and then on that, and then tuition and transportation could cost me between $70,000 and $80,000. The net is, I am now increased my budget, and let's say I use 70 as a figure, by $60,000. And I have not changed my space requirements to any substantial degree.
And I don't need the answer tonight, so then how much does $60,000 service on that, on the debt for the building?
Well, if we use the North School payment out, I think it was $250 in principal and $145 or $150.
75 is the gross principal, but then you
Okay.
get 30% back in the state.
Okay,
And the average, because interest drops from
Right.
the high of the first year to a low, if you would use like 175, 125 for an average of the 20 years for interest payment.
okay, so what do you say, 170, what do you say?
150 for interest, 275, I think 30% is 82,000. That's the money you get back on the principal from the state building aid,
Okay, so what?
about 300,000.
Okay, so if I put one kid back without being able to save significant on staff or change the room, I've negated the state aid on the bond. That's really what it comes down to. I mean, if you want to look for mixes and matches.
Which is one thing I might add to that, Nate, in terms of Steve's comment. The children that we have in these programs already are the severest kids. So it really wouldn't be a function of, if there are 9 or 10 kids in a program, to say, well, if we don't have that program, that we only need to place 1 or 2 of those children out of district. All of those children require the components of a very strong program like that. So if I was given the charge, eliminate these programs, eliminate these rooms, the number of kids that we would have to place would be significant, because I wouldn't be able to keep, out of a program of 10 kids, it wouldn't be that I would place 1 or 2. We'd be looking at 10 kids.
1.2.
To answer the question, the bond, subtracting the 30% and doing all that using the North School 5.5 million, the cost per year on average will be $367,500. So that's the cost of the bond,
And you've got 10 children at $60,000.
yes.
So you've got $600,000 in expense.
For one program.
Okay.
Thank you.
Before I go to you, Dan, George?
Yeah, as long as we're on this, Brian, you mentioned how many we have now, and I know in the past you've mentioned that the potential for more kids coming in, or being identified, I think is how you phrase it, is pretty substantial. Just at what you've seen since you've been here in the position that you're in, can you give us some rough idea, the kind of numbers we may be talking of these types of children that are going to need these services 3 years out, 5 years out?
What we've seen in terms of trends and projections is the number of children with autism continues to rise at a catastrophic rate. The ratio of children now born with autism is 1 in 150 nationally. So the number of kids across the country is just a health crisis. We also continue to see that in terms of trends and projections, the kinds of kids that we're getting have more intensive kinds of disabilities. So we're seeing kids with medical needs, kids who have different multiple kinds of disabilities, and even sort of what I would call sort of a garden variety child who needs some remedial instruction. The gaps between sort of them and their peers are bigger. So the number of service hours that the kids are requiring, whether it's through the reading program, the math programs, the therapies that they're requiring, what we're seeing is the kids are coming in with more acute needs. So whether it's autism or it's kids with learning disabilities or emotional disabilities, the needs are greater. And then you put on top of that the premise that we have to make AYP in all of our special ed programs. So we could end up becoming a school district in need of improvement because we don't make AYP in special ed reading or special ed math. And if you continue to have programs where you've got kids receiving quality instruction, but in inappropriate environments, that will catch up with us. So you're taking the most distractible kids, putting them in classrooms that are overcrowded with multiple groups, multiple instructions occurring simultaneously, kids in closets, cafeteria, library, hallways. That instructional space will catch up with us.
Another way, just to try to pick up on what Steve said, if I look at grades 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and say that's a 1, 2, 3, 5-year period.
Here, you can use this one.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's getting late.
Good thing
And
sixth
my
grade's
ne-
not there
my ne-
anymore.
Yeah.
He's a product of closet classroom.
You know, there's more truth to that than, if I look.
Too much distraction in this room.
Yeah.
It's mood
To
lighting.
pick up
Okay.
roughly four classrooms, if you look at the PFS program, DAS, okay? Pick up 4 classrooms. Over a 5-year period, if I sent those kids out, I would be spending $6 million in tuition and transportation. Now, if you had a bond for 10 years, right? And let's double that. And let's say we got the same number of kids. And I'm assuming that the cost on tuition and transportation aren't going up, which we all know is not the case, right? So 10 years, that's $12 million of out-of-district tuition and transportation that I would have spent that would have more than paid for the renovation and addition work, which is 2 classrooms less. And at the same time, provide a better program than sending these kids out of district and giving us flexibility and space. So, I mean, there's another way of looking at it. And yeah, you'll pick up some money on teachers that you wouldn't have hired, but when you start talking, you're still coming out ahead. And then the other thing that you're weighing here is not only the dollars, but from my perspective anyways, more importantly, is the quality of the program. If it was my child,
That's what she said.
and there was an opportunity to have my kid go to school in the town that I live in and be able to interact with the kids that he or she sees out on the rec fields and all this other stuff, I'm voting for staying here without having my kids spend 50 minutes, 60 minutes, an hour and a half on a bus going someplace.
There's also the piece of it that we've talked about at the Special Ed Committee, that if we create a program, we have inquiries throughout the year from other school districts who are interested in tuitioning kids into our programs. That's something that we haven't pursued, but if you have the capacity, a year, 2 years down the road, might be a revenue stream.
Additional questions? Go ahead.
Thank you. Nate brought up an interesting point, and since my line of questioning fell on the edge of being a cold bastard, I'll ask this of you too. You said if you had a child like this, then you would vote to make sure that you kept them in the community. But we're talking about how many voters?
Okay, all right.
So my point is, so if we're talking about a dozen, 2 dozen, 3 dozen, 150 voters, my point is, we do need the support of the entire community for these people with special needs. That's all.
Yeah, Steve, that's a very valid point. And I guess my counter argument, and I can make it a personal one because of the education program my daughter had. My feeling is my daughter had as much right to go to their neighborhood school as Ron Campos kid or Dan Beaver's kid, and that's where that child should be. And my argument would also be, why would you want to spend $80,000 educating my child when you can spend a quarter of that by keeping them in the district? What logic does that have?
I guess when I look at this, a couple of things, and I've been looking at space for longer than I care to admit. I start looking at the numbers, and you start off with the premise, do nothing and take the portables down, because the portables cannot stay up, and eliminate that, and you start to get into the classrooms that are of significant size again, and we go back about 15, 16 years when I know my children were in the classrooms of 28 and 30 students, and that's a bad learning environment, just for regular, average students, the students in the middle. So that looks like the choice. You have a choice of not doing anything, eliminating those classrooms. I can make the argument, and I'd like Peter and Nate to put it down on paper, that from a business point of view, elimination of in-district programs, the savings on, or the cost of the in-district programs, minus the cost of the building, minus the cost of the teachers that we would not hire, we see a cash positive effect on the taxpayers of Londonderry. So it makes sense to do this. There's other costs associated with it too, but I think that's a big cost that you have to look at, is the building makes the most sense from if I have to eliminate programs. If we go back about 5 or 6 months ago, Andre was in front of us and saying that the building is going to be at the north end, and up until about 6 months ago, we were talking about how we were moving students from North School down to Matthew Thornton and how we were moving the population here. If we eliminate the portables, we do have that, and we'll be into another building project in several years where we have a growth there. They have the multifamily houses up there, the condominiums up there that are going to be built. It may not be built in the next year or two. So from that point of view, I see that it's cost effective to the taxpayers to make this building. When I look at the educational process, and I'll speak personally, I had 2 students that went through LEAP. of my sons. They went there for speech and language, and they went there for OT-PT. They wouldn't even qualify to go through the door today with the disabilities that are available in that building. That has happened throughout the whole district, okay? That is an issue that we have, that the disabilities that we're seeing today are more severe than we saw 3, 5, 7 years ago. That's an issue that we have to deal with. That's not only in the issue that we have in the classrooms of the self-contained classroom, that's the ones in the general classrooms. That's another issue that we have to deal with. We speak about taking these children and putting them in taking them and saying, we're going to put you out of district. That sounds very nice, but the parent says, not with my child. And now we get into the least restrictive environments, okay? And more often than not, if you get into that argument, you're not going to win it. I know cases where there's a classroom set up for a student, okay? And that's occurring here with teachers in that classroom because they won the battle as we go to a hearing officer. So I believe having the program in district and expanding it here, while it's cost effective, the educational process that we provide in the district, we can control and we do a better process of it. The EH program at the high school is a perfect example of how we've taken a program and made it work, and we have students in there that are graduating now to do it. I just think that it looks like it makes sense economically and educationally for us to proceed with this project.
Ron, I just want to add one last comment. You said most of what I was going to say, and, you know, I think well said. Seems like a lot of the conversation tonight was centered around the substantiation of the building relative to servicing the needs of a few, and that's not the case. Anytime the district has built space, it's taken into consideration servicing the needs of everyone. Because if you look at the programs since I've been sitting here for the last 9 years, every building project we've done, and if you look at the programs that have been put in place, not only service children at both ends of the spectrum, but it services children throughout the spectrum. And they have the availability to move in and out of those programs that we put in place through the community support and through the board and through the administration and the staff, and certainly the children's participation. And we can talk about the high school and the plethora of opportunities and programs we put in there from space. We couldn't have done that without that space. The middle school, there's additional programs put in up there. You know, I won't sit here and belabor them, but at the middle school, we're going to be facing a crisis, not a crisis, but we're going to be facing a challenge for these children once they move into the 6th, 7th, and 8th grade, because you take 5 classes and they start as the numbers grow, and that's in the strategic plan to address that, and we've already started a program up there, once again through utilization of space. North School, we've taken some opportunities that's presented itself to us there that the community supported, and there's programs, if you look at the key programs, some of these lift programs, it's all space related. So I just don't want the community through this presentation this evening, and Ron eloquently stated it, that it's this percentage of the population, whichever percent you want to identify, it's the totality of the population that we're trying to address with opportunities for educational. And to tell you the truth, the board gets calls from these parents, no matter if their children are. I remember one time, I think Ron was on the board and maybe Steve, there was a discussion centered around the key program or the special curriculum program at North School. We must have had 80 parents. They were lined up behind us because they thought we were going to change that program. And actually, now if you talk to those parents through the programs that we've enhanced up there, through that and Mark's involvement, the feedback to me is they're very happy and very positive with all the additional. So I just always feel a little trepidation when we sit here and talk, a percentage of the talk focused on a particular segment of the population. And I don't want to leave here, and I know I'm being redundant and I'm going to end, but I don't want to leave here tonight and everybody think we're just addressing one population of the students. So I don't know if the board agrees with that or not, but that's my position on it.
I
actually have a question that doesn't center around special education space. You went through some numbers in these sheets, and thank you for asking yourself the questions we would have anyways. You went through some numbers on the sheets talking about class sizes of anywhere between 17 and 31 students per class. Do you know the average class size in similar school districts in the state?
I can probably pull that information out, Steve, and get that for you. I can tell you that the minimum standards, K through 2, they start at 25, and the language is maximum 25. You should move towards at no more than 20, or 20 or fewer. Grades 4 and 5, they say 30 and 25, and preferably 25 or less. I think.
And those are Board of Education
Right.
mandated numbers?
Yeah, they're part of the school approval process. And I would submit to you that the dynamics of an educational program, particularly when the level of complexity that we're running and the services we're providing, I believe, require small class sizes. If anybody would like to spend a year in a kindergarten class with 25 5-year-olds, be my guest, and I'll give you the Medal of Honor. I wouldn't want to
No,
do
like,
that.
like Dan, my students went through when the average was 28, 29.
Yeah, we were in the 30s.
Yeah,
I think the,
31, 32.
When
Yeah.
they were in the cafeterias and,
you bet.
yep.
And I did too. And the nature of the instructional process is significantly different. You know, if youngsters had special needs or special education, they weren't in the classroom. You know, I mean, that was it. They were gone. And what the requirements are and the complexity and the dynamics today compared to the 50s, I hate to say it, when I was in elementary school, are significantly different.
One of the things, and Nate, you can expand a little bit more on it, that we don't lose sight to the fact is, over the last couple of years, we've been celebrating the successes we've had in our scores of reading and mathematics at the elementary schools. That's in part due to better instruction, but the smaller class sizes. And as you start getting class sizes big, remember we take the 3-tiered reading program, we split it up into 3 groups. As those groups get bigger and bigger, you kind of lose the effect. And I mean, if one of the elementary principles would affect how class sizes affect the instruction, I think that would be beneficial right now. I don't know. Okay. No computers.
I can't be quiet anymore.
Okay, good.
Okay, I've
Thank you.
sat through this, and I've been in the district now for 20 years. My children have gone through here, along with all of your children, and I've watched the class sizes drop. When we put the addition on Matthew Thornton in 1985, it was all large classroom sizes. There was no small classroom space, which is why we're in the situation that we're in now. When I taught first grade, I had 26 students in those small size classrooms, and I wouldn't want to do that today and try to teach dibbles and to use the dibbles and have the 3-tiered instruction. I couldn't do it. I couldn't go back where we were when I was teaching 10 years ago. It's just not possible. And I think we've been trying desperately at all 3 schools to carve out smaller spaces. Just this year, we've carved out extra spaces for our reading instruction at Matthew Thornton because we have to have it. We're still finding that our special curriculum class is in a very long, narrow room at the back of the school, and we'd still like to address that. But at the same time, we have to make choices, and we want to make sure we're doing what's best for children. The other thing I've noticed, and I just was looking at these numbers a couple of weeks ago, is that our retention rates have dropped dramatically over the last 10 years. When Jim and I were working at Matthew Thornton, after we got rid of readiness, we saw a tremendous change in the number of students we were retaining. And if I showed you those pieces of paper with the numbers of students on it, you would be appalled, as I was when I was looking at them the other day. This year, we retained altogether in all the grades 3 students. So there's been a dramatic drop in that as well. We are doing a much better job than when my children went through school. And my children got a wonderful education. But I would much rather be in the situation that we're in now, plus not knowing what's going to happen in the town. And as a town resident, I've seen the changes that have occurred. And I would really love to see us be in a position where if there's some building somewhere where we're not stuck putting 25 or 30 kids in a classroom. So,
Thank you.
okay. Any questions?
Notice the retention rate improved when Jim left, right?
I didn't want to say that.
Okay,
Our retention rate hasn't improved.
No.
okay.
All set.
All set? Okay,
Thank you very much for your
Thanks,
attention.
Nate.
Nate,
Nice
this is an excellent job, and can I ask you, please, if we can wrap this all up and send copies over to Tim to submit to the CIP committee?
Sure. No problem.
Because the chairman had asked for some backup for the space at South School, and I think he provided. Thank you. Okay, next item on the agenda, which leads right into this, is the CIP program. And, Peter, you wanna?
Yeah, I'll get there, but memory serves me right, what we have in the packet is a spreadsheet. Really, what you've got is just a spreadsheet of the school projects. I think a month ago or so, or a couple of meetings ago, I sent you a copy of the whole CIP with everything in it, including the town projects. What we did with this spreadsheet is take last year's spreadsheet, I updated it, i.e. putting the $200,000 architect engineering fee for 2008, and updated this South School project to 5.5, which was the presentation given back in December, and everything else was left where it was from last year. So the board needs to agree to this or change it, or give some direction to, I guess, myself and Ron, we're on the Town Capital Improvement Committee, as we go forward with the municipal projects and put the final pieces together for the capital improvement plan to be submitted to the planning board.
Comments? Dan?
There's nothing on here that surprises me because everything on here was on here last year.
Right, well,
With the exception of the auditorium. The auditorium has now moved, well, it wasn't on the school side last year, I don't believe.
Yeah, it was.
well, it's kind of the bottom of the page, but we've kind of moved it
That's
all
what I'm
up
saying, so.
Right.
But I mean, we've had that presentation,
Right,
and
right.
so it's there.
I guess what I'm looking for is a motion to accept the capital projects, if you want to take them individually and look at it, or comments on South School, then the district office, or the high school, and the auditorium at the high school. Yeah,
I hate to say this because it's kind of like hitting myself over the head with a hammer, but
Go ahead, say it.
if I make a recommendation to the board, I would adjust priority, moving the district office out and moving the auditorium in closer. As much as I hate the thought, as much as I'd like to have new office space, I think if I was looking at priorities, I'd slide the auditorium to an earlier date and the district office out a little bit.
If I may, the only comment on that, I won't address the space because you're going to have to address it in the morning with your staff. The issue with that I see is you're talking about a cost that's, more than fourfold.
Right.
So, think moving a cost that's fourfold up would be a considerable burden on the community. As I looked at this chart, the first thing I thought of is, how many businesses can we get in here by the year 2012 and 2013 to pay for this? If you move it up, then I've got to think, how many businesses can we get in here by 2011 and 2012 to pay for this? So, and when I say businesses in here, I mean by increasing the tax base without increasing the number of children.
Maybe one way of, maybe it's sliding, well, I'm looking at 10, 11, because 10 and 11 isn't that, you're right, because 10 and 11 isn't that far away.
I would not move it into 10.
No, but I'm saying if maybe you slide the auditorium up a year and you move the district office out or something, I'm not sure. But Steve has a valid point. And whether or not, God, geez, I'm not coming into work tomorrow.
Yeah.
Whether or not,
Let me give this as an example. They broke ground on the airport access road. They broke ground on it last week on Wednesday. On Thursday, the state slipped the airport access road another year
Right.
out.
Right, in fact-
Within 24 hours, and an impact like that in our community and what it does on increasing our tax base is catastrophic. And to look at expenses like that and pulling them in, I mean, they got to have someplace to go to after they get back from China, I guess, but still, it's expensive.
Yeah. Ron, I just talking with Janos and Andre, I think the Pettingill project is being moved out
Out.
a year. It's kind of dovetail what Steve is saying.
Yeah,
so, maybe it's.
I think I'd leave it where it
Maybe
is.
it's taking a look at, maybe part of the decision, at least on this section, is the board saying, if you had to have a priority between the two projects, the auditorium versus the district office,
Okay.
what would be the priority? And then look at that time frame in relation to the other stuff. So, people are moving around. I mean, I'd love to have new district office space because, to be very honest, our space is poor. However, if I'm looking at priority stuff, we'll just buy a big Winnebago.
okay.
Ron.
Okay, go ahead. I was gonna ask,
One thing in looking at this, we had the auditorium committee, and we placed it on the CIP, and they were pretty aware of that. You were the representative, I believe, George. Secondarily is, what's not taken consideration, simply looking at our needs, is the town's needs.
Right.
So to move something in, we don't know, at least I do not know, where that would bubble up. So I would just simply leave it where it is
I guess,
at this point. I understand your priority thing, but
and I guess if I'm looking at the three projects, the one that, to my mind, has the highest priority is South School.
yes.
I mean, so that, from my perspective, is the one of the three school projects really should be done first, because that's from my perspective, that's basic stuff. And that should be addressed. So the sooner rather than later, and as far as I'm concerned, that's the number one priority for us.
Okay, at this point, talking about South School, can we,
I'm sorry.
I was gonna ask Peter to talk about the architectural, what we're doing at South School and the architect, because I think that information's out there, just so everyone's aware of that.
Well, just, as we've done in the past, we've always had inspections. When we had the North School portables and we found there was some structural issues, we went up there periodically and did inspections. Same thing here with South School. Again, kind of backpacking on what Nate said, one of the questions we knew that would come up and justified so is, what are the conditions of the portables at South School? One of the ideas was, if you remember a month ago, was to maybe move this project out a year. And the question was, what condition the portables in, and could they survive another year? We hired a structural engineer to go and take a look at it. And what we found is that the trusses holding up the roof are splitting. The wear and tear is more than we thought, and he is concerned with snow load, and snow load is the operative word here. There are no chance of them falling today or tomorrow. The issue is the amount of snow load on top of there. He's concerned would pose an issue. What Plan A at the moment is to build, I guess, another roof or deck, if that's what you want, on top of the one, using the support beams, which are in good shape, and using those to hold up a second roof or a roof built on top of the existing roofs. What we're talking about is believe it or not, the newer portables. They're the 4 outer ones, the furthest away from the building. And we believe we can have this accomplished before school opens this year. The window is tight. Everyone is scampering. The structural engineer is designing what would need to be done. Obviously get those drawings and pass it out to a few vendors and see which vendors could do the work in the appropriate window that we're asking them to do.
Any questions on that? Okay.
No.
You didn't, I don't think you gave the dollar figure.
What was,
We don't know the dollar figure yet because we have to wait for the structural engineer to put the drawings together and then pass it out to a few of the vendors who may have the window. We don't think we're talking any more than, and I shouldn't say this, I'm shooting from the hip. We don't think it's any more than the $10,000 to $20,000 range is what we're looking at.
any other questions?
Ron?
Yes.
To get it on, or at least, I'll make a motion to support the summary of capital projects for the CIP for the fiscal year 2008, 2013 as presented.
Do I have a second?
Second, and one comment.
Go ahead.
I would have, who's a representative to the CFP?
I am.
So I would have a conversation with them about the conversation we had,
Yes.
and so they understand.
What I am going to do, each of the committees or departments in the school district will be presenting to the CIP. What I will ask is Nate to make this presentation to the CIP, because, again, he can answer the educational questions better than I can ever do it, so.
No, Tom, when's the meeting run?
It's in August. I will get a day for you, and we will get back to you on that, but I would appreciate you making that presentation.
No problem, happy to.
So I think that answers your question.
Just be careful, if you offer up your district office, you just may lose it altogether.
That's right.
Thank you.
Okay? Any more, do I have a second? Any more discussion? All those in favor of supporting CIP plan as presented for 2008 to 2013, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Thank you very much. Okay. Request for overnight trip. Jim? And again, Nate, excellent presentation on this. I think a lot of work to the staff and the information that went into this. This is one of the better presentations on space needs that I've seen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Guys did a great job. Everybody worked. Peter, the elementary principals, even surprisingly Brian, Mark.
You
Nate.
had an advantage. You didn't need the high school and middle school on this.
Yeah, well, absolutely. That saved a lot of time.
Okay with me.
Okay.
All right, what I brought to you, and I think we're going to try and do this all the time, is these are trips that we've always done. There's nothing new. These are trips that we've always done. And I think I talked to Nate about it. I think what we're going to try to do for the board is to present to you a long list. I'll get together with the athletic director to say, these are trips every year we approve. That's on one sheet with the details. And then any new trips, like this year we did the presentation for the football camp, we would come to the board with a presentation with a little more detail to it. These trips are, I had the cross-country coaches get together and tell me the trips that they do every year for cross-country. We've approved them every year, and they're in front of you now. And they put them into little categories. So we're not looking to do anything new with cross-country. We're just looking to do the trips that we normally do. And there's only one trip that may possibly lose a half a day of school, and that's if and how many kids qualify for the Eastern State Championship at the end. The others are really summertime or weekend.
Okay, can I have a motion?
I make a motion to support the recommendation for the cross-country trips.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Discussion? Seeing none,
The only discussion I'd have, and I would just ask the same question of Larry, because I've asked this of everyone else, is just that they do understand this concept that we've been talking about too deep leadership. You know, two
Yes.
adults at all times and two students at all times, and never being alone.
We are going to bring that up at our fall coaches meeting, winter coaches meeting, and spring coaches meeting. And just also remember, we usually give you the teacher chaperones. Most trips also have adult volunteers who have been clear through district office and in cross-country. You can imagine they're the same people every year. And that's also more adults to student ratio. But that is one of the agenda items on our coaches meetings. And I know Mr. Susi is aware of it also.
Yes, yes, thank you.
Thanks.
all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nate, I'm going to bring up again is one of the things we spoke about is a policy for overnight field trips that we are looking for. That came up at the last meeting. I know Mark took, I'd like to see that sometime in the beginning, last meeting in September, first meeting in October, so we have a separate policy. What we have now doesn't really cut it.
Okay.
Okay. Mark, you've got your policies?
Okay, the first policy, ILBA, is on assessment. Again, these policies that are for the third reading for the school board, these policies are part of the new state minimum standards requirements. ILBA assessment really outlines definitions for high school course competencies, particularly in approved independent courses, internships, online and virtual courses, provides those definitions. It also outlines in the policy district-wide test results, its selection process, administration, and interpretation and reporting of those results to the school board on an annual basis. So that's the first policy. Any questions on assessment?
Questions? I just want to make a note to everyone in the public, is that these policies are on a webpage that we're discussing, that they're able to be read on the webpage by the citizens, and if they have comments, they can come in here. This is the third reading for this policy, and this is a common action now, right, Sue, that we put the policies on here for the public to read them before we even get them. Okay. May I have a motion for?
Motion that we accept policy ILBA assessment
Do I have a second?
Second.
for adoption.
This is for adoption. Any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
Okay, the second policy, high school competencies assessments. Again, this policy outlines the definitions of those narrowly focused areas of independent study, internship, virtual online courses. It also in policy, at the bottom, students will not be able to test out of any course offered through the high school program of studies for a grade or credit. Those are probably the key components of that, of this policy. Any questions?
Make a motion that we adopt policy ILBAA, high school competency assessments.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
The third one is extended learning opportunities online virtual education policy. And again, this policy outlines in policy the extended learning opportunity process. There's also exhibits in the blue section on particular areas such as independent study and physical education, independent directed study, online, virtual. I believe there is one other one. Art of writing is one other one. So these are also listed for you or as exhibits in this policy. Are there any questions?
Motion?
Motion that we adopt policy INAA, extended learning opportunities for online virtual education policy.
Second?
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay.
And the last one before you is extended learning opportunities, the regulation, INAA, and it outlines the application, approval, appeals process, administrative supervision and oversight, and limits on the number of approved extended learning opportunities. Any questions?
Motion?
For those just tuning in, just so everyone understands, we have actually gone through these. This is the third time. We've gone through them twice before this. Third reading, and make a motion to adopt INAA-R, Extended Learning Opportunities, the regulation.
Second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Next, last item on the agenda is the architect's contract for South School. Peter?
Yes.
I was just, we included that because it was referenced.
What happened last time?
A few meetings ago, we had a discussion, if you remember, on South School and the selection of an architect. Our recommendation was Frank Marinese, who, if you remember, has done a number of projects for the school district. I believe at the time, the board agreed that Frank would be the architect for the project. And the discussion centered around, well, how large of a project are we gonna need, and therefore, how do we know what the architect's fee would be? What I had Frank do is kind of give us, if you remember, this was submitted at the last board meeting, kind of 3 key points of what his fee would be for a 3.5, 4.5, 5.5 project, giving us his approximate percentage of the project and then the dollar figure for those 3 key points. Obviously, I've talked to Frank, and you know, these numbers stand as they are. Yes, we may be leaning towards the 5.5 number, since we've pretty much moved that number on to the CIP committee, and the discussion that we've had earlier on the project going forward with the 6 classrooms at South School. It is getting, if we are gonna get this to the board an appropriate time on the March ballot, we've gotta agree on the architect's contract, so then the committee, along with the architect, can then move forward in selecting a construction manager, who then would work with the group and so forth, and the architect to then come up with a guaranteed maximum price for the board, and then to be put on the March ballot.
Discussion. Steve?
If, I guess this is the risk here is that we approve the architect, and then, for some reason, we don't go forward to present the South School construction to the voters. Presently, I get the feeling that the board intends to submit South School to the voters. Does anyone disagree with that? So the only thing I could perceive is that the capital improvement plan committee would recommend that we not do South School. It's still our purview to submit South School to the voters. would their advice to change the capital plan sway this board in any way? I'm not trying to get everybody to make decisions, I just wanna, tonight, I know it wouldn't for me, I'll speak for myself.
I guess with the structural engineer information that has been presented today, I feel much differently today than I did last meeting. So the answer to that is no, I would go forward with that, and I think that puts that in a different category in rating the project. There now becomes a safety issue, potential safety issue.
And the good news is, I don't feel as I did when we had the North School situation.
No.
It's not
It's not
as
critical.
urgent as
Right.
that was, and it's not as urgent when South School had a mold issue. But, at this point, it would be some difficulty to get me to change my mind on presenting this to the voters.
I was just gonna say that by approving this contract, the contract only becomes valid upon the passage of the bond. Right, Peter? We had already approved the planning money.
Right.
So by approving this contract, it doesn't in effect kick in until the bond is passed.
Construction starts, right?
Yeah.
All right, thanks.
Ron,
I'm sorry. I apologize.
Dave Woolley, Budget Committee. Quick question on, purely from a funding standpoint. We carried forth $112,000 from North School residual funds, I'll call it, to be used towards South School.
No,
No.
no. What we did is we returned to the voters $112,000, and then we asked
Them
for
to approve
200.
the use of it.
No, to ask for 200,000. We couldn't bring it over because it was a bond issue. We can return it to the voters, and then we had a separate warrant article for the $200,000 to keep the two issues separate.
Yes.
If the issue of doing South School did not pass, the voters would have got back the 112,000 no matter what.
Okay.
So there's a little difference in the wording
It
there.
was a subsequent year also for the 210.
No, we did one in the same year as the 112, and then we did another one. We've appropriated 400,000 or close to that.
There's two, yeah, 400,
$400,000 for architect engineer fees.
over 2 separate
We did
years.
it over
Separate
2
year.
years.
Okay, so the 112 and the first 200 happened one year, and the second 200
Right.
happened.
That's correct,
that's right. And the 112 offset part of the 200.
right.
Okay,
The totality's 400.
so we have
Yes.
400 and,
Yes, and that's what I think the superintendent was saying. We have money to do all the drawings for the contractor to come back with a GMP, and then additionally we move forward.
okay, so we would then be spending 348 out of 440 that we ultimately appropriated for this purpose.
Also, you had some site, I believe it was site work, it's architectural and engineering, so there's some engineering fees in there,
Yes.
too.
If I want to make sure I heard you right, Jay. 400, there's total of $400,000 that was appropriated for initial drawings and fees. Two separate votes, 112 offset the total 400,000. The number that you see here would be in addition to that based on what the size of the project was. Right, Peter?
Yes.
So, for instance, if the money that was appropriated includes architects, engineering fees, and the whole bit, this money would be for the second phase based upon the passage of the bond.
So the 400,000 is spent
Would be spent by the time we get to this point.
to an additional 348?
That's right.
Okay. Which would change the percentage of architectural and engineering firms for the project drastically. No?
No.
No.
What I think it is the first money that we spoke about is for development of the drawings and the construction bid documents. The second part here is the architect's engineer of the overview
Of the construction.
of the construction of the job. He- And this one here, the fee includes 120,000 for site, fees for site work.
Yeah.
Bringing it to 9%. That's what that note indicates. Doesn't make sense to me.
I guess I'm not quite grasping it, but
Okay.
I'm not quite grasping it either, and I sit on the committee. I thought the $400,000 covered the A&E fees for the project.
It covers his expenses and any out-of-pocket expenses that he incurs.
That's the A fees, right?
Right. All the way up to the complete set of drawings.
Yeah.
Right.
And it does, that
Right.
does include the engineering stuff, so that when they
Right.
did the site work and all, that's all included in that, Dan, you're right.
so if the 400,000 gets us to a complete set of drawings and a
That's right.
design to build this thing.
And the site work.
And
And the site work.
The 348 buys us what?
Then from then on, you've got construction overview, and you've got other fees that he would, that he pays for his consultants.
So the 348 is the construction management fee, not the architectural fee?
No, 'cause you pay, well, I can't, you would select a construction manager, to handle that.
So,
I'm not sure what,
I mean, and listen, I'm not the brightest bulb in the box. I guarantee that. We've already approved $400,000. We're good to get that whole set of drawings, correct?
yes, and the site work.
Okay, good. So then how can the committee, I mean, you're stating here that the committee can't continue its work without a professional architect on board. Haven't I already paid this guy to do that work on board? So why are you asking me now for $348,000?
No, we haven't.
No, we haven't paid yet, George.
You've been approved that money.
Okay, so why do I need another $348,000, which is now gonna give me $738,000?
I guess that's my
$48,000,
question.
sorry.
Is it 738?
Is that the number I'm looking at to pay this man, $748,000, and we can't move forward until we continue to pay that?
No.
Wow, that's the,
No.
well, I guess then I'm confused, because
Here's-
that's what this, I read this, and what this is saying to me is I've got 400,000 in the bank, so to speak. And in order for him to continue, I needed to give him another or guarantee him another 348,000.
No.
Okay, well, then I'm
My-
completely baffled.
My
now. Yeah,
understanding,
maybe I should go sit
let me
down.
take a stab at it, George.
Okay.
My understanding is, in presentation to the voters over the last 2 years, was the architect and engineering fees, the engineering fees being designated as site work would be a complete set of drawings, including electrical, plumbing, roofing,
Right, yes.
mortar, brick, foundation, all that, windows, all that would be in the drawings. That's the A&E fees, and the site work would be considerations for the site development to substantiate that. Any fee, I don't understand why we're even looking at this, because any fee here is to be discussed in acceptance of the $5.5 million
That's,
project.
my point is,
So we're not appropriating $358,000 here tonight. That discussion would be centered, at least my understanding, in connection with the $5.5 million
Be all
project.
wrapped in as part of the 5.5.
And the voters may choose to accept that, may choose not to.
Oh, yeah.
But that presentation would be at the, but to get to that presentation, it's already been approved by the voters to at least do the drawings and site work to substantiate the $5.5 million. That's how I see this.
Okay.
I don't know why,
then I don't get.
and I've
this
been
at all.
doing a number of these, and
This
I see
makes no
Ron
sense.
sitting there.
Sorry.
What do you think, Ron?
I'm-
Did I
I'm
say
not-
that
no,
correctly?
I agree. I don't see this is what the project, the cost with the project on here. I think basically what we have to do is take a vote to release the funds for
The site drawing, or,
site drawings
and
and all
the,
that. I think that's the only thing you need is a vote.
Well, you need, well, what we're basically looking for is to approve the architect,
Which we did.
for the 400.
right?
I thought that was done already.
We,
Well, right, but then the question was, Ben had asked the question, but at what price am I approving in the contract? So we had,
So we have this right now.
right, because we didn't know at that point was gonna be a 3.5, 4.5, or 5.5.
So this is information only.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Right, that's all it is.
This, I'm sorry, Ron.
No, go ahead.
So this tells me that should we go ahead and pass the bond, this will be for $5.5 million. Our fees would be $348,530,000.
Which would be in the $5.5 million.
Yes,
Uh,
would be
I'm
included.
sorry, Steve.
It would be included
It's
in that
not
5.5.
separate, it'd be,
I understand,
yeah.
Yes.
and that's it. That's what this tells me.
Okay, wait a second. So somebody just said if it's, I think it was Pete, just said that it was included in the 5.5?
I said that.
Oh, you said that, I'm sorry. So it's included in the 5.5, so it's in addition to the 400,000 we've already approved.
If-
Okay, so then we are paying $748,000. I guess is what.
Oh,
I'm
on the
driving at.
totality of
On
the
total,
project.
correct, on the totality.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is not really an authorization to spend the 400,000.
No.
No, this
Well,
isn't.
that's what somebody just,
I-
I thought,
what I
that's what I
said-
thought somebody just said.
I just said that.
I don't mean to make this as complicated as I
No.
seem to be making it, but I'm not gonna spend
No,
additional money if I don't know what the hell it's for.
Well, we can't even spend that money.
all we were saying is, what I said was that I had thought, all we need tonight is authorization to spend the
Which makes
allocated.
perfect sense.
With the 400,000 that we have.
That's fine.
Which
This
the voters
here-
supported.
And this
Right.
here will be whatever the bond comes in, this gives us
Gotcha.
information, what we're going to.
That's
do.
up to the
Information
voters.
Good enough. If it's information only, I'm
that
good.
was requested, I'm trying to go, think back a month ago, was, depending on the size of the project, what would be the fee?
Right.
Right.
Okay?
Yeah.
And so Peter's charge was to go back and negotiate
That's
with
what this
Frank,
is, okay,
and this is what it is.
okay, that's fine.
Okay, so what we need is yes,
Then just to be certain, we did approve and will spend 400,000 for architectural fees to Mr. Maronesi's firm.
Yes,
If the project moves forward, we will spend an additional
Right.
340.
during the construction
Right.
process.
If it
Now-
comes in at 5.5.
Right, what's getting bandied about, Frank's not getting $400,000.
No,
Included in that is the money for the engineers to do the work, the money
site
for
work and all that.
everybody else to do
he
the
would
work.
contract out a
He's
variety of.
contracting the stuff out. So Frank's not doing the site work and not drilling the holes to make a determination as to where the
Right.
water is. That's the amount of money
We'll hire
to
a
do
ro-
the architectural and engineering stuff, to
Right.
be able to present a plan and proposal and the plans, and say that if you're gonna build the parking lot, you gotta put it here, here, and here, and this is the way it's gotta slope, and this is what the cost is gonna be.
The 400,000 will get us to a finalized plan.
Right.
Design.
yes.
Go
ahead.
The site work identifies ledge, identifies drainage, it takes in the totality of the necessity.
Depends if anything.
And actually, that money that it looks like you were looking for an authorization to expend would provide us with a set of plans and documents that we could actually hand to anyone
Yep.
who build the building at any time. Okay, the board's saying yes, but neither of the administration people
Yeah.
are.
Theoretically, you could.
Theoretically.
Theoretically.
I understand.
Legally, I don't know. Not so sure about that.
Yes, but theoretically, you would have a full set of documents for the
That you
building
own.
and for the site.
That question was asked of Mr. Maronese at one of the discussions. Somebody here asked who in fact owns the plans. And his response was the school district owns the plans.
Right.
Once, you paid for them, so, because it'd be the same as if you chose not to do the project. You'd still have, let's say, the bond failed, but we brought it back 2-3 years later, you still have the documents.
You bring the plans back
There,
out, you update the
maybe
plans.
George asked that question, or Ben or somebody, but the district owns the plans.
But you-
So I think your
Right,
answer is
but
correct.
you still need, let's not even talk about it in individual, but once the bond is approved, you still need architectural services during the construction. Yeah.
Right.
Just like puts a beam up and it sticks out through the wall,
Oh, yeah, it's
somebody's
not
gotta
done,
work with it.
You bet.
So for clarity, Ron, do you need a motion to authorize the expenditure of the 400,000?
I would think that would clarify this.
What's the
Wait,
exact number?
No, I don't, you don't need that. the board has already
Oh, okay.
authorized that.
I don't remember now. Okay.
That amount, not to exceed that amount of money to do the A&E plan.
Okay.
What this simply is,
Was a
is
response to
a
Dan's
response to the request by the board.
Okay.
What would be the fee structure depending upon the size of the project, going from 3.5 to 5.5?
So you don't need anything.
No.
Let me make a stab at this, I'm
So we
sorry.
don't need to
Let me make a stab,
approve
let me
anything.
make a stab at this.
Stab,
I
yes.
think I know what's happened here. If I look at this document looks exactly like the document that was presented to us 2 or 3 months ago, asking us, I am requesting the board construction project.
Oh, that's me. Sorry. That was my stomach.
Breakfast will be soon. So I am requesting the board approve Frank Marinese as the architect for the proposed South School renovation and construction project. The date of this letter is 7/9/2007. Peter, is this date on this letter just
The date is automatic.
today's date on the same letter that we reviewed 2 or 3 months ago, where we essentially indicated that Frank Marinese was the architect of record? I think that was the vote that we actually took.
That's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
The board, you're absolutely right. Board said yes. Remember,
Thanks.
there was back and forth discussion. Said yes. Then the follow-up, now it's starting to come back. The follow-up was, all right, what is going to be the fee? The board said, we don't know what the size of the project is. Go back and find out what the fee would be if, in fact, the bond is approved. And that's where we are now.
Okay,
Okay?
thanks.
There you go. Very good.
Thank you. Anything else for non-public session?
For public.
For public, I'm sorry.
We're all done.
I make a
Just one
motion,
follow-up on that, just to be certain I'm comprehending.
yeah,
400,000, which may not all be spent, buys us a full set of plans, which in theory we could take to anybody, although not necessarily because we already approved
Right,
the architect.
right.
This buys us oversight during the project.
It
the
provides you
project's approved.
oversight.
If the
change-
5.5 is approved, this
Yes.
is the fee that we would pay for oversight during the project in addition to purchasing.
Can I ask a favor on this? Can we get back to you
no,
on that?
yeah, actually, if I may, this, we are going to have another 7 months to review, because it is a portion of the $5.5 million. And we owe it to the voters to have a clear understanding of it. We'd like a clear understanding of it. And then the voters, I'm sure, would like that too, as well as the Budget Committee. So we've got 7 months to review what that is and how much that is and what it means and how much we've already spent.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
and,
that's
you know,
good.
Yeah, and
That's fair.
remember,
They won't vote yes if we
things
don't
like testing, because you
make
got,
it clear.
like, when you pour the concrete, you
wouldn't vote
gotta
yes.
test the concrete, the electrical, I mean, those are all the things that are in there. So that, in essence, is the architect's contract. Out of that money comes the funding for the, allowances for electrical and, civil and all the other engineering stuff and testing that goes along with it.
We will get back to you with that.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you. May I have
Make a motion that we go into non-public under RSA 91A:3, Section 2A through I.
Second.
roll call?
Aye, Dan Beaver.
Okay, but
I won't do that again.
if you're on the air,
Yeah.
you're in this room, you're on the air.
The thing was falling off.
That was what you did.
I was just pushing it back
I
on.
didn't see it. I was too focused on what I was reading.
Oh, I didn't even hear it either, and then all of a sudden,
Did sound like a stomach.
So-
I don't want to photocopy his presentation. These are the extras.
Yeah.
oh, sure.
Yeah,
There should- you should have-
You can photocopy it if you
I
want.
don't want to do that, I just want to have it for the budget committee. These were the,
Yeah, you can take them.
yeah.
Anything here is free.
No, it
They
is.
were designated for somebody, but they didn't.
Somebody didn't pick it up, then they.
I know that Suzanne Lorentz on vacation.
Oh, wait, Dairy News, this one's not, was that yours? Oh, there's a whole bunch of stuff in
The
there.
only,
Oh, those are the,
These are the
those, yeah, those are all the, readings and stuff, yeah.
All I'm trying to avoid is
Is the 400,000 buys us what? There's buys us what?
who's that one labeled to?
town council.
So, but what you guys say?
Oh, well, that would be Marty.
Marty, and he didn't show, so.
I won't if you think it's.
No. The only one the reporter, I know that she is on vacation. She started vacation at 5. But I thought they were sending somebody else in her place.
Well, Terry Date was sitting here.
Who, was this guy a reporter, a new reporter?
No, that's one of the very times.
Oh,
So yes, it is a new reporter.
Well, it's Jim Lockwood from.
yeah, that's what you're really looking for, yeah.
Doing these.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Nate might have some extra copies of them. Why don't you catch them real quick?